We are red. Red is on.
Good evening, being 4:45 p.m. on Thursday, April 5th, 2018. I would like to call this meeting to order. All those present can rise and say pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes of 3/29. I think everybody's got them in their folders.
To fix the top because it looks like you crossed out Catherine and so she wasn't here. She was.
That was brought to my attention, so that's
okay
for us all that it will be changed. I already changed it on the computer.
No, I didn't notice that.
I didn't. I could have got away without.
Page 3.
Oh, yes.
Was it the second? Yeah, second paragraph, next to last line. You budding?
You buddy. Thank you.
you betting. Did we receive 2 new detective cameras or 1? I think it's just 1.
The conversation was 2.
Was it 2?
I'm pretty sure that it was just 1. It was Brian Kikila because he goes on patrol.
Is that in here somewhere?
Yeah, on page 1, the last, actually the last sentence.
Oh, okay.
The 2 new detective cameras.
Why don't we confirm that with the PD, because
Yeah.
if they bought those, they bought the new ones.
I get that.
And they're
Yeah,
trying to buy them under the contract that doesn't exist.
They did buy the new one, but I think we only bought 1.
I hope so.
I pasted that out of Tim's report. So
Correct.
we'll check with that.
Right.
Yeah, I hope
Yeah.
so.
We'll see. Just an FYI, on page 2, Joyce will ask Brock to take the door to the kitchen off for easy accessibility. We really can't do that because that is an open invitation for vermin to get in there, and we have a lot of that up there. We do have a lot of it up there. So we could, if there's a way to put it in without having it securely attached, without the animals getting in, we could do that.
I thought that was the inside door by the kitchen that they were going to remove for the handicap accessibility. The one that was dragging on the floor.
Well, that was last year's comment, but now it sounds, I mean last week's, now it sounds like you've
Yes, I think
discovered
we have to
that.
address
Oh, okay, this is the door to the hallway. Okay, the hallway door to the kitchen.
Hallway
Door to the kitchen, that makes it much better. Okay.
So add hallway.
Just add a hallway door.
Okay, hallway door.
That makes perfect sense.
This isn't going correct. Have you seen this?
Yes.
I haven't signed
be a new one.
Do we have any non-public minutes ready for us at all?
Looking for one.
We have years worth.
Thank you.
Get what?
We have years worth.
I mean, if you want something specific, let
To
me know.
do?
We have years worth of non-public minutes that we have not gone through and released that which has,
Well, I'm just saying to read. I didn't know if we had any to,
I mean,
we've
they're
had
always
non-public,
available
so
to
we
read.
haven't-
All I have to do is print them off and double space them for you, and
we ought to,
are they all transcribed? I think that a lot of them are up to date, but not, like last week's are partially transcribed. And there weren't times included, so they were kind of, I had to jumble them together. But I have been going through and transcribing most of them.
we really need to start doing that weekly.
And what I'd like to also do is not be so verbatim in them. I've just gone overboard with those, so I'd like to just get the main topic, who said what, and the result, because it's just,
Right.
it's
Exactly.
craziness.
Yeah.
But you're more than welcome to come and look at them anytime. I have
It's
them
just
all.
a very, very handful of ones that we've asked to have verbatim, and that's it. And we've asked that ahead of time. And that was maybe a year or so ago, but
Okay.
that,
Yeah, I mean, they're always.
I'm with
available.
Catherine, we really should keep on top of it, because we don't know what we said on several different topics that we've talked about 2 or 3 weeks in a row on non-public items, and we've changed it. So, yes, we've talked about that topic, but what week did we talk about it at this level here?
I also have an index that I can supply to you.
Mhm.
of
They're
what-
very nice.
yeah. So if
Oh,
you-
that's
if you come
nice.
to me and say, well, when did we talk about such and such? I think it was in non-public, so I could go to my index, find out the date, and then go to the minutes and transcribe the minutes if they're not.
Make a motion and we approve the minutes as corrected.
Second.
Give your motion and a second to approve the minutes of March 29th, 2018. All those in favor say aye.
Right?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Look at that. We are 8 minutes ahead of schedule.
So that's crazy.
Don't jinx us, Joe.
We can change that. So we're going to start with the PD body camera contract, I think, and then we've got copies of,
Chief, gonna be here.
just he's here. So we have a copy of the policy
Lisa.
in our folders.
Yeah.
There's some questions on it, so we can get to that until we I think somebody was going to be coming up to talk about the contract.
The chief and the captain should be here.
Okay.
Jesse, are you here to talk about the contract for the body cameras? Are they coming? Chief and captain, they.
So there are people that have questions on the policy? Is that what we're looking at now?
Yeah, why don't we take a look at
Okay.
that?
Got it. Jesse, is this pretty much a standard from other agencies that have body-worn cameras?
I think so.
There's one here from Guilford that you can look at, it's very similar.
This,
That's the old one, I have it.
Mhm.
Sorry.
That's the old one or the
No,
Guilford
it's
one?
the only one that I have from Guilford.
I looked at ones on the computer from all over the country, and there are differences, but it's basically some of them want them to wear them all the time. They don't want them to turn them on and off when they get out of the cruiser. When they're on duty, they turn them on.
I think it's ours says they'll be in the buffer mode.
And then they have, most of those will have a clause that'll say these are the times when you're not to use them, and it's, you know,
Our original one
talking to
said
the
use all the
commanding
time.
officer,
Medical.
and they're interviewing victims. Best way to say it.
I would pretty much say on page 2, number 2, first paragraph, I.
Calls for service.
Says number, yeah, shall be worn at all times by assigned and trained uniform officers during first, second, and midnight shifts.
And then if we look on page 3, number 3, I.
Mhm.
See that, Kathleen?
hello.
That's if it's in trouble.
It's,
If there's an issue with the,
it's not.
if it's not functioning, it's the duty of the officer to bring it to the attention of the supervisor in writing as soon as possible so that replacement can be procured. It's their responsibility. That's their accountability. So,
We've just gone over that contract, so no questions last
The policy.
on the policy, yeah.
do you have some type of system in place where it says the supervisors have to monthly have to monitor randomly review the body cameras? Do you have something, does he have a check off, a release, a spreadsheet, you know, that says I've checked off this one? Next month it's a different one.
I don't think he has a spreadsheet, but the captain does, the corporal does.
Chief, can you come up to?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on down. I guess Jesse too. 'Cause-
So that is,
Because it does say
Good-
and
good money,
keep
man.
and log.
Because the corporals and the supervisors review the video for case preparation.
I'm talking about, if you look
Cameras
on
for the
page
camera.
number 5 on page, on number 6, supervisor responsibilities, at least on a monthly basis, supervisors will randomly review the BWC recordings and keep a log to ensure that the equipment is operating properly and that officers are using the devices appropriately in accordance with policy, and to identify any areas in which additional training or guidance is necessary. Do we have a log in existence now?
So they get cataloged on the software,
Mhm.
and the captain reviews them every time he goes into one. It's going to record that he went and reviewed a particular video.
Not the video, the piece of equipment.
The body camera
The
itself.
body cams themselves.
Right, so he, according to this that you want to adopt, the policy, it's telling us that you're requiring a supervisor to keep a log and randomly go in and check body cameras, randomly a couple a month, I would say. I don't know what the number would be, but randomly check them to make sure they're in proper working condition and ensure that the equipment is operating properly and the officers are using the devices appropriately. And then that's a log.
I interpret it different. At least on a monthly basis, supervisors will randomly review BWC recordings and keep a log.
Yeah.
To ensure that the equipment is operating properly. So I'm seeing it as you have to see they're going in and checking logs, but not actually checking the equipment. So if you can run a report showing that
Yeah.
he's,
The software generates reports.
Are we talking about number 4?
now
I
page
guess-
5,
Number
6,
2.
6
Number
II.
2.
Number 4 says, the officer shall inspect the BWC, control and monitor device daily to ensure there's no visual damage. And next on flex is in the work.
Where are you on that?
4,
Page, what page you on?
page 5, 6-4,
246.
That's the policy.
Page 5?
page
I thought
5,
we were
6,
looking at the policy.
IV.
Yeah.
The policy that's already in effect.
But what page are you on, Kathy?
7/28/15, I'm looking on page 246, number 4. Visual damage will be logged on the damaged equipment.
Page 3.
Oh, page 3.
Okay, so where we're at is we were looking at page 5, number 6, item II.
Right,
Are
page,
you on that,
the
Catherine?
one that you're on, Catherine, is the officer's responsibility. The page 5 is the supervisor's responsibility.
I thought we were talking about when
Can
a
we-
piece of equipment is damaged, what takes place.
Can
Okay.
can we go back and we'll start, and we'll hit each one of them that anybody has a question about, but this, presently, we'll do page 5, number 6, II, and address that, and then we'll go to the, whatever next one that anybody has questions. Everybody's read that.
So which one is that, John?
2.
The one that says
Sorry, Roman numeral 2.
6?
No, but
Roman
what's the
numeral
topic?
supervisor responsibilities.
Thank you.
It says at least on a monthly basis, supervisors will randomly review BWC recordings and keep a log to ensure that the equipment is operating properly and that the officers are using the devices appropriately and in accordance with the policy, and to identify any areas in which additional training or guidance is necessary.
So it's basically just a check that someone can verify, chief, anybody can verify, yes, this is being done.
So I just wanted to ask the chief what's in place now to ensure that this is going to happen.
I know that Luke, when he was, because he was Luke was the one that really got the body cameras going. Sorry, I'm ill, so my voice is kind of funky, but Luke was the one who really initiated the body cameras in the first instance, and I know that what he was doing was anybody was reporting to him, so it was sort of a combination. So the officers have to do their check, and they were reporting any deficiencies that they found in the camera when they first came onto ship. He was also going around ensuring that all the cameras were working properly. I think that he has run into a couple problems now with the contract, and some of the issues that the cameras are having are fixes beyond the PD's capabilities. So I think that there's some that have been broken or dysfunctional for a number of reasons now for a period of time, and they just remain that way at this point. But I know that Luke was the supervisor who was certainly checking all of the cameras on a very consistent basis.
Okay, so we have a log. Can we get a copy of the log?
I can't,
It says
I don't know
this is
what
our
how
policy.
he records it, but I
Yeah.
can
Well, we
check.
should know because we have a policy to do that, and that's what we were addressing. And we wanted a copy of the log from policy, page 5, number 6, Roman numeral 2. So if we can get that. Does everybody want to see that?
I mean, no, I don't.
I just wanna
It
know
sounds
that
like there
one's
isn't a
in
law,
place.
so let's institute a log.
I just want to know that there's going to be something in place.
Right.
I don't need to see a log, I just need to know that there's under the supervised responsibilities. We don't need to beat this to death. Just to know that there's going to be a check either by the corporal, sergeant, or captain that this here is going to take place, that's all.
Well, this
'Cause this is
policy's
new.
been in effect since 2015.
This,
When we purchased them, when we entered into the contract with them, I think that's when this was created, right?
Yeah, right.
15, 16, yeah. So there seems to be confusion whether there's a log actually being kept. Somebody's looking at it. I suspect Luke probably has been.
So Luke inspects
But
them
is there
if
actually
a camera,
a log?
I know he reports to the captain if there's anything wrong with the cameras. The officers immediately report to him if there's a problem with it. Because to the officers, this camera, other than the weapon on their side, is probably the most important thing they carry on them. And they really care about them, and they care about that they work. And if they don't work, they report it to the corporal, and the corporal reports it to the captain. And that's kind of what, and they came to me with this TAP program because I said to the captain, if batteries need to be replaced, the cameras aren't working, let's send them in to get them fixed. When they called Taser explained that you might be better off served to use this replacement program, the Taser Assurance Plan.
I think
And
even...
that's what got the conversation going, because some of the batteries, now these are 4 years old, so the batteries aren't making it through a whole shift. And that's what they're worried about.
But I guess my point is that you're asking us to engage in this program. I just want to make sure that this program is overlooked by somebody in a supervisory position that can oversee that if there is something the matter with a camera, that it's going to be sent in and it's going to be logged that you sent it in and you got it back and it's fixed. I mean, so I guess that's where I'm going. Maybe the captain can answer.
Page 3, number 3, procedures for BWC use, from numeral 3, it says that each officer shall bring it to the officer supervisor in writing as soon as possible.
Right.
So we should have those. And I guess my concern is that if we have the cameras, they're great protection, and they're great for enforcement of law, and they're great in court. But if I was a defense attorney, and somebody had a camera thing against me, I'd say, let's see your policy. Can I see the log? Can I see where these are reported? You've got some that are broken, some that aren't reported. So you guys aren't following the policy, so I'm asking for this evidence to be dismissed, which could happen.
Yeah, but I think each evidentiary issue that's addressed in court is going to be a separate matter. So if a defense attorney says to me when I'm in court, if we're in the middle of trial and I want to play a camera, or a body camera, a video, then a couple of things happen. First of all I have to do is lay the foundation to present a video into court. And then there's New Hampshire case law that says that if it's something like electronics or something like that that's stored in a cloud, which is exactly what happens here, that a lay witness, so a police officer can take the stand, I can show them a brief clip, I can ask them, okay, what, do you recognize this? What do you recognize it to be? As soon as they say that it's the video clip of this particular instance, then I can play it. If a defense attorney is going to have an issue with the policy, I don't necessarily know why the policy would come into effect unless it was a circumstance like in a confidential area. So we bring somebody for a blood draw at the hospital. We can't play the body cameras
That's in
in the
policy.
hospital because it's confidential. So if there's body camera that shows inside the hospital when somebody's getting medical treatment, then I would say that a defense attorney would be interested in what the policy says and why we're allowing that. But in all the times that I've played the video in court, I've never had anybody attack the policy.
So are you guys
So-
refuting the policy, or we just want a log, I think? So,
Um,
sounds like,
The
I mean, I get what
captain-
you're saying, but are you saying we shouldn't because that's what's in the policy?
My understanding is the captain reviewed the policy and updated it to be more current with what's
So I think, yeah,
Right.
right, so there's not a log, so we need a log.
right. Exactly.
Yeah, when you review the videos that the officers take on calls, are you seeing any training or policy violations, and if you do,
Occasionally, if I've seen an issue that had to be addressed, and then I had to redact part of it, and this was several years ago, where we didn't have an officer using the Bluetooth in the car, so you could see non-hands-free, so I addressed that, and then I had to redact it because the video was going out, so. Those things pop up, but most of the time, we don't see policy violations, we see what's going on, because like someone will complain that the officer was rude, well, the officer was just telling him this is how it is, and you didn't like what he said. Doesn't mean he was being rude. He's explaining the law to you, or the reason, we do something the way we do. But as far as policy, we don't really see a lot of those. The main thing is with our policy, and the equipment starting to fail, it's hard to keep up and in compliance with our own policy where batteries are being exchanged to keep going the whole shift. I mean, when we were doing the 12s, it was even worse. Now we're down to 10, but we're still running out of batteries. The batteries are running out of power. Cameras are starting to malfunction. So I don't think these cameras were designed to last a 5-year contract.
So like a cell phone, the last year of your contract, it's,
Yeah, perfect example. So, but it says the supervisor's responsibilities, at least on a monthly basis, the supervisors will randomly review. Is there something that you're gonna put into place that this will log?
Reviewing videos or reviewing the maintenance of the equipment.
Right, yeah.
Maintenance of the equipment. Okay,
Maintenance
yeah.
and video,
Well, it says-
like reviewing, is this guy wearing it upside down, is he not using it properly? It's recording voice, but it's not recording video, it's
So
not
this
black,
is your policy, so.
Right.
right?
Randomly review recordings.
And then just a check mark, yes, I did it this month, I guess.
Randomly that's fine, we can have them do that, because the leading supervisor will probably randomly review who's been on the equal shifts with them, to see if their body camera is being activated. If it's all black, or is it actually recording video? Like I have seen the occasional video where it's just audio, because in the winter time, sometimes they throw a coat on and they forget and don't have the camera, so they have to like kind of be mindful of that, so.
There's your answer right there.
like training issues?
Right, there's your answer right there.
Like I
said,
You answered it right there.
Simple Excel or
Well, and I can tell you
sheets.
that even though I don't fall into the chain of command, I also do this very frequently with officers because I review a ton of video. Because if I get a case and there's a camera activated, especially in cases where somebody's going to plead not guilty and then it potentially is going to trial and I get a discovery request, well, I have to review the evidence before I send it out. So there have been times, especially like in the wintertime, it's a perfect example, when an officer has the body camera and then they put a coat over and they forget about it, activate their body camera, and now all I see is like a little piece of a triangle up in the top, so I can hear what's going on, but I can't see anything. So in that instance, I have to, I go to the officer and I say, hey, by the way, I reviewed a camera and I noticed that when you put your code on for your DWI, I got nothing except a little.
So when they get out of the car,
Are we still talking about the law?
we're talking about the policy.
Yes,
About what?
the logs.
What page? Oh,
If anybody had any comments or suggestions or.
Spreadsheet.
You can do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, Google Sheets or whatever,
Just
yeah.
like we do
Yeah.
with the car.
Yeah.
Right.
That'd be easiest.
And the other thing, I don't know if you were here for that, but it says that the officers will submit to you in writing every time there's a problem with any malfunctions. So I don't know if they've been doing that.
It's been coming through by word of mouth, so it's like, I'm like,
If the, because we spent a lot of time making the policy and, tighten that up so that it's done nothing up with
That could be by email.
yeah, I prefer
Yep.
an email so I can reference it later, because in the course of the day, I have a bunch of different things come in, and I might forget exactly what the problem is with it, so I prefer email or in writing. So, yeah, I just,
I think the idea was going forward that we make sure, this is a good policy, it's working. Anybody else have anything on policy?
I have a guest statement question. So RSA 105D2 body camera, state of New Hampshire. I think ours is not as clear when they should turn it on. I think this is much more clear. And then it has a list of when they shouldn't be using it. Because we had occasions where the camera wasn't turned on and it seemed to be at the discretion of the officer. But if you read the state law, when it should be on, and really if you read ours, they should have been on. They should have been on. Officers shall activate the video and audio components of BWCs and start recording upon arrival on a scene of a call for service or when engaged in any law enforcement-related encounter or activity, or if so required by local policy upon activation of lights and siren provided, however, that in those cases set forth in subparagraph 7D and 7E and paragraph 9 in which an individual has a right not to be recorded, blah, blah, blah. And that's where it starts listing when not to use it. Ours, it seems to be more subjective.
Well,
that's a lot.
page 2, number 2, room number 1, it talks about when, right? And then there's, in 5 also says about the lights being activated. So 1 and 5, those cover that. According to the RSA.
Well, I don't think a policy covers it, because otherwise those cameras would have been on. What were they, 2 motor vehicle accidents where the officers chose not to turn them on?
Well, there was, if we're
So
looking.
why would the officers, using this policy, choose not to turn the cameras on, when obviously they, according to state law, they should have had the cameras on?
I think our policy covers that.
I don't know if it does, because if you look at
Calls for service?
when and how to use the BWC on page 2, Roman numeral 1, it says calls for service, and then it just kind of,
Which should,
it says i.e. related contact, law enforcement related contacts, and such as, and it lists a few.
if you have a call for service, that kind of is the umbrella for most.
The BWC shall be utilized during law enforcement related contacts.
So like everything, so there should just be like a list of exceptions?
So i.e. pedestrian vehicle stops.
But that's just the
consensual-
such as, that's just such as,
Oh, yeah,
that's just
so-
example. Any of the call deemed in the officer's opinion, a crime has been committed, I suspect, or
Has been,
is
is
being or is about to be committed.
He's running it then. The only time you don't, there is medical calls. That's your exception.
Well, so then I'm back to did the officers, why did they feel that they were capable of deciding not to turn their cameras on during those 2 incidences that we know of? Were they obviously reading these, they should have.
The last, I don't believe it read this way in our policy. Is this way you changed, Kath?
Well, this is
some
dated
changes were made because
2015.
of one of the cruiser collisions, and so we updated those areas.
On the cruiser collisions?
After, yeah.
Yeah,
The one we had that meeting back in,
last April, I think.
Well, in a cruiser collision too, I mean, do you, I don't, I am not looking at that right now, but the policy, I don't have it in front of me. But if you're on your way to a call, I know that a lot of times the cameras, when I look at it, it's when they're arriving. So if they're en route to something, their cameras aren't necessarily recording.
It sounds like they should be.
They should be if they go on lights and siren according to the policy though.
But in 2 of our cases, they weren't on, even when they got to the scene.
Well, and the other question that I have about that is that was it a conscientious choice, or were they having camera malfunctions?
We never got an
Or,
incident.
It was
They didn't
presented
log
to
in,
us as a
so-
choice.
or
Yeah, log
the
in.
other thing is that, I mean, you know, it could just be inadvertent. I mean, if you're in the middle of a hot call, if you don't hit the thing, if you don't remember to hit the,
Then they should have been written up.
I mean, one of them was,
I don't know what the reason was.
one of them was rear-ended, right?
Yeah.
One of the-
The point's taken.
And the other one was,
I think-
officer was making, which I know that Kath dealt with both too.
And we've had reports where people say they are activated, they believe it's activated, and then so many minutes into it, they realize it's not recording, so they hit it again, and then it comes on. Because usually it doesn't alert you that it's on, only that it gives you a reminder every so many minutes that, hey, it is on now, like by a vibration or a beep. We try to turn the beep off, so it just vibrates so that it is activated. So inadvertently, they're trying to activate it, but if it's not activated, I don't know why, but it's the operator.
So according to state law, they're supposed to document when they make those mistakes. Are they doing that?
They document in the report
Then we would have had a good reason why they didn't, we would have had an explicit reason why those cameras weren't turned on during those 2 incidences
So-
that they had.
Right. And I'm hearing Catherine ask a question. As a Board of Selectmen, we're sitting all here, we're asking questions about the policy. We have the chief and the captain, and we're asking a question, and the answer, are they documenting per our policy and per the law when those incidents happen and we get an I don't know? I don't feel comfortable with those kinds of answers.
Documented
in the report, right on.
Is it documented in the reports? Because that's what Catherine just asked.
Absolutely.
Okay, but when we asked about why the officers didn't turn them on during those incidences, I do remember the response was they didn't feel it was necessary.
Mhm.
That was one particular accident.
That was
I can't
one,
tell you
yeah.
about the other, but I know one. It was, the officer felt it wasn't necessary. It was nothing but a thing.
Right.
I mean, if they,
But that's contrary to state
To
law.
what's here,
And
right.
it appears to be contrary to this policy. So
I mean,
how do
if
we
they,
fix that? And if they don't turn them on,
So can we
and they
adopt that
choose not
language?
to, why aren't they being
And then just-
written up? Why aren't is
Going
some
forward,
discipline?
follow
well, the captain does discipline them if they violate a policy or.
But that didn't
I
take
know that-
place because they arbitrarily chose not to turn them off. At least that's what we were told. I mean, turn it on.
Can we be
I
a
know,
little
like,
bit
with the
more stringent
reports-
in that?
With the reports, they put in every report, camera was activated, camera was not activated, not working, so that we know going to court if that camera was on or not. And they have to. So it's documented every time.
Except for this one time that we were discussing
But I think-
months ago.
This is, you know, if we're talking about the policy, because I want to speak to that.
We are talking about the
But
policy.
if we look at that,
We
if
are
you look
talking
at
about the policy.
8.5, let's see. If you look at
8.5.
8, page 6,
Yep.
number 4. that covers.
It
that
doesn't
instance.
cover because obviously it's not being done.
Did you take a look at that one?
That's not my point I'm trying to make. I can read and I know what's in here and I've read it several times and I've read this. My problem is we're being asked to enter into a new contract. The old contract hasn't expired for cameras and we haven't got it right the first time. So if we need to change the language in this policy to make it stricter and more clear on how to use these cameras, maybe we should do that now before we enter into a second contract. And that's my issue. And past history has shown that this isn't being adhered to. This isn't being adhered to, and this is the time to make those changes if we need to. Or how, like I said, how are we going to go forward to make sure that they are using as per state law in our policy?
Okay, may I ask a question?
Go ahead, Pat.
I want to put the corporal on the spot here for a second, because I think he'll have the answer for us, because he's right down in with it. So, or maybe you should ask the question again, Catherine, about the law, the state law versus our, in conjunction with our policy, and our review of this policy. Are we really adhering to what's going on with the body cameras? So you kind of restate it, and then I'll ask a question after that. I know Luke is going to have the answer for us. I know
Well,
he's going to
except
have
they
the
put
answer.
it out there for the captain and the chief.
They didn't have an answer. They said, I don't know.
I got an answer, it's right here. This came out last year, or 2 years ago, 2016. Our policy came out prior to that, so it was never referenced to this state law. So I can add that
What I'm
in
telling you
accordance
is-
with this law, our policy will follow it, so.
But it doesn't appear that we're following the policy we have anyway.
Our current policy.
I mean, so are you telling me that you feel we need to make this a little more transparent, if you would, a little more clear, with less guesswork? So the officer knows exactly when to turn it on and not turn it on?
Yeah, because we will put it, well, just like it says in accordance with RSA 33-A-3-A, which is the retention of the records. We can also add RSA 105D, 102 to it. These are in accordance with that RSA. This is when you turn the body camera on and what the exceptions are. In any conflict with our policy, we will follow state law.
So, okay. And if you think it should, that's fine. I asked the question because I really didn't know. But looking at our policy, page 2, Roman numeral 1, under when and how to use BWC, the BWC body worn camera, shall be utilized during law enforcement related contacts. Then it gives some suggestions. So clearly, or forget about state law, this was not adhered to. On 2 occasions that we know of. One, again, the answer as to why is because the officer felt it wasn't necessary. It was, my words, nothing but a thing. Just a fender bender. But yet it clearly says law enforcement related contacts. So if our law enforcement has contact with a motor vehicle accident, according to our policy, the camera should be on. That's what it says.
In law enforcement related contact where our officer was involved in a collision, is that what you're referencing? I mean, because
I
no
think,
matter what he has contact with, that'd be anything, like having lunch would be a law enforcement contact, so.
Well, what would you
I
think?
think clearly when a law enforcement officer comes upon an accident, whether I've run over a chipmunk or gone off the road and no damage, I'm a motor vehicleist and I've been in an accident, that's a law enforcement contact. That's not having lunch. So what I'm trying to find out here is, why is that okay? And do you feel we need to make it more clear so that we don't have them deciding upon themselves, oh, this is just a small incident, I don't need to turn the camera on. Because it seems to be contradictory, at least that one incident. So if you feel you need to beef it up, fine. If you need to feel more enforcement, fine. I'm just asking, what do we do to fix it? Because it seems to be broken.
Okay. I mean, we can, if we reference it in state law, then that will beef it up.
And then who will enforce
Then
it?
we will have to enforce that. If you're not in compliance with the state law or the policy, which is referencing the state law, then we discipline.
Now, my next question is because I really don't understand exactly the roles of corporals and whatnot. Do they enforce policy?
Policy.
Are they enforcers of policy?
Yes.
Do you engage them and get their input when you're changing policy and whatnot to make it tougher? Because I think that would be valuable input.
Okay, we can, but you're asking us to mirror basically the state law, so.
No, I'm
Is there
just,
input?
I gave you 2 examples,
Okay.
and again, I'm saying to you, I'm repeating myself, I don't know how to fix it, but it seems to need to be fixed. I'm leaving it to you to fix, not telling you how to fix it.
Okay. Well, I think it would.
I just want to be assured, if
we
I
would-
decide to go into a new 5-year contract for a lot more money, that this is truly going to work this time, this policy.
We have a policy that's going to back us up, that our officers, we go out and buy these cameras for our liability and safety of the officers. That also, this policy is going to mirror the liability for the town of Tilton as well. And right now, there's some, those 2 questions that we had, those 2 areas. One was the supervisory accountability, and the one that Catherine just brought up. And I think that if you just took a double look at it, engage the corporals in conversation with it, engage Jesse in it, and see where you can come up with perhaps maybe taking a look at it. You've already had it for a couple of years and using them. So.
I mean, we have close to, 1,800 files right now, somewhere close to that, on file, and we look at them all the time to not only review whether they were in policy or not, review their tactics, review the arrests. So they're getting looked at all the time by Jesse, by the captain, by corporals.
So the corporals
so
look at.
I think, with adding new policy language, when they're looking at the video, they're going to be looking at the video with that policy language in mind to make sure, did we follow the state law, RSA 105D? Because if we go to a minor accident in Tanger Outlets parking lot, 2 cars had minor damage and it's under $1,000, and they show up and they have to say, just be advised you're being audio and video recorded, and the people say, I don't want to be, they have to turn it off. That they're following those policies as well. And so I agree with the captain, just taking that language from 105 and popping it in there would probably be the safest way.
It seems to me that, when we look at this, that we have a pretty tight policy. Maybe a little bit of tweaking, and that probably what we should do is have more comprehensive training. Every 3 months, have everybody do it and make a multiple answer quiz.
But the enforcement side, I mean,
They're
utilizing
working.
the corporals to enforce it is simply having them go to the, roll call training, hey, make sure you guys are activating your cameras. If you're not activating, you've got to document it, you need to know why, and you need to get it replaced or repaired, or
Right,
make sure that you're doing it correct.
right.
And then we don't get to the disciplinary side of enforcement.
Exactly.
We're doing it ahead of that, and I think that would be the most effective way.
Exactly. I agree with you.
Get good training going. And, if I was to ask the corporal, in case one of the officers gets in a car accident, what's the policy on that? It's outlined in here. Would you know it off the top of your head?
I ask me a question?
Yeah, if I'm putting you on the spot, you don't have to
No,
say that. You probably could ace
I
it.
am familiar with the policy, and, you know, the one thing that I think, you know, I'm kind of impartial because I haven't been involved in the entirety of the thing, but policies are ever changing, and they're dynamic, and they have to change with the times. So just for instance, when we started carrying tasers back in probably 2005, 2006, there was, tasers were not allowed to be used with pepper spray, okay? Because pepper spray had, at the time, would have a propellant that was flammable. So as time goes and as things move on, companies produce pepper spray that is now taser compliant, that does not have a propellant that's flammable, and therefore you can now use both things. It's still not recommended, however, you have to worry about catching something on fire. So it's good to review policies. Policies are very important. At the same time, they're also they're guidance for an officer. You can't always say every time you do this and every time you do that, because it can be very difficult. And just from sitting here listening, I believe you're referencing if there was an officer involved accident. It's just one of those things that, you know, if the officer either neglected to turn it on or forgot to turn it on, you know, it's something that we can definitely speak to the person and say, hey, but there's a lot of things going on in the officer's head just as far as, am I in traffic? Is that person hurt? Do I need an ambulance? So like we have 10,000 other things going on, and then to try to remember, we try to be very diligent. Every situation we deal with can become a dangerous situation. But if you were to say every police contact, it may be a slippery slope, because if I stop, a police contact could be me walking on Main Street.
Sure, but my question was more in a generality, do they know off the top of their head, you know, and usually repeating stuff and trainings and stuff like that is the best way to remember. Yeah, like you said, in a pinch, sometimes people forget stuff. But if a police officer was in an accident, what would that procedure be? If I asked any police officer, do you think any of them could come up with the correct answer that's written in here? I don't know if anybody could.
I don't want to speculate. I mean, at the time,
but
all of us came out with the policy. When we came out with the policy, all the officers reviewed it, had to sign off that they know the policy. Do I remember every policy I ever read when I came here?
I'm just hoping it's not like a Facebook user's policy that's 12 pages and people look at it. Where's the box at the end and check it?
So generally, no. I mean, the officers do sit down and study it because those things that govern what we do. Like one of the adjustments we had to make was through state law, through some of the policies and procedures that you see throughout the country. One of our officers had a call at a hospital, and the female complainant at the time was making accusations that she was going to report that the officer had inappropriately touched her and assaulted her. So the officer turned his body camera on to get that stuff on there. And it later on came out like, hey, like even though she was making those accusations, you still can't turn it on because of things that we've seen throughout the country and HIPAA and all that stuff at the internet facility. So we had to update our policy. So we constantly are reviewing policy and we try to adhere to the best that we can.
Anybody else anything on the policy? We done with the policy?
You just may want to have them look the new RSA over, or the newer RSA. So.
Jesse brought one up just to show everyone, like, if you haven't seen it, just to see what it looks like, so that you have a sense of.
So we'll go into
the
the
he's going to show you
cameras in the contract.
While he's starting that up, as it relates to tracking violations of policy and things like that, I don't know if the board remembers, but a few years ago, we had a small piece of software that would allow people not only on shift but off shift, so supervisors on other shifts could be able to, you know, access that sort of thing. And it was a log of not just, you know, violations or notes or memos or things like that to sort of hold all the officers accountable. It was also about the attaboys and things like that. And you know, so the absence of something like that probably makes it a little more difficult to communicate, you know, between the different shifts as well.
Yeah, what was that?
Guardian? Guardian is everywhere.
Guardian, that's right.
Yeah.
We never got that.
Belmont and Laconia use it.
It's a lot of money.
It wasn't, it's a subscription, but it's not that pricey. But
Did you get your update?
Why didn't we get it?
Yeah, works so much. It wasn't that compared to.
You can go and get that now. $1,500. I don't know. Well, I think that, you know, having the discussion on the body camera and the policy, that you're gonna go back and take a look at the policy itself.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we have to make a decision on,
Do an update to the policy, have the chief re-sign it, and push out the law along with the policy, the roll call, and focus can just make sure everybody's following. That way we don't go to this style.
I'm definitely in favor of the cameras. I'm in favor of the new program of the cameras, so I have absolutely no problem. You
Go ahead.
say something, I'm gonna make a motion.
It's working?
How about if we
Oh,
have
no,
more
no.
discussion on this? Because we're not done discussing the cameras.
We're
She said
we're
over now.
we're on the cameras in the contract
Okay,
right
thank
now.
you.
Pass the policy.
Make a motion and still discuss it.
Here we go with the car again.
Anybody can make a motion at any point.
I know, usually it's, but go
So we
ahead.
can, you know, in,
Yeah.
Pat wishes
Call
to
the
make a
question.
motion, we can,
What was the motion for, I'm sorry?
I do
Hasn't
wish
been
to make
made
a mo-
yet.
I do wish to make a motion, and we can discuss it. I would like to make a motion to enter into, to replace the existing contract with Axon for a 5-year contract for the body-worn cameras for a grand total of $39,180.85. And this is to replace the existing contract.
Second?
so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Sure, I got tons. I
Okay.
hope nobody calls the question while I'm discussing it. That's why you don't usually make a motion until you're really done discussion, but that's okay. I find it annoying, sorry.
You don't bring the motion to get it to the floor to discuss it?
Depends on how much discussion you have. It's always
Well,
in
let's
jeopardy of
discuss
Well,
being
we got-
called.
Here we
So
are,
let's-
discussion,
yeah.
and let's refrain from any call and question until everybody's had a
Thank you.
moment to ask questions.
Normally, when we have a purchase of this size, we require 3 bids.
It's the only one in town.
So we don't have 3 bids, we have 1. We're not out of the first 5-year contract with this company, and we're already entertaining going into another 5 years. The cameras in the first 5-year contract are no longer being produced. Their technology has expired. And according to Axon, they're only going to be repairing those for their warranty period. Well, those cameras are only warranted for a year. So what happens when we enter into another 5-year agreement? And I see that we're looking at the top line of what Axon has for body cameras. It appears to be their most expensive one. So what happens in another 2.5 years, 3 years from now?
They replace it.
We're in a 5-year contract, right, and I'm getting to that. They're gonna replace them because now we're gonna go into their TAP, right? And that's a pretty expensive program. From my bits of figuring, you could buy the 9 cameras and all the other stuff again, and it'd still be less than the cost of the $19,944 that the TAP is costing us. And I use their discounted figure, not their actually, what did they say it was? $46,606 is the list amount for what we want.
What set of cameras would you buy again?
I use the same price. They have them listed here as $449.
Well, in
Basic body, that's not what Flex 2
That's a Flex 2 camera, and that's what it said online for the cost of that. They're giving them to us for $89.80, which is nice.
Right, they've discounted those to $89.80 a piece.
But if we paid full price, as near as I can figure, we could buy all that equipment twice over and still not pay 19,000, whatever it was. So why under the circumstances have we not looked at any of the other companies, and there's a plethora of them, and why don't we have 3 bids?
I got one bid of $28,210 from Stalker Radar. They make what's called cop tracks. That's for 14 cameras. That's for, I think, 36 months of storage, data storage. However, it's a body camera. It doesn't give you the epaulet feature or the collar mount feature. It's strictly center mass. Most of the companies only offer a center mass style camera, so you're either going to see from the neck down, or depending on which officer it is, if it's a shorter stature officer, you might see less than that. You might only see the steering wheel when they're driving, so you might not see anything else that's going on if you're responding to a call, and they do turn the camera on when the lights are going. You will see the steering wheel, support symbol. So most of the cameras aren't really comparable with the Flex, because the Flex sits up, you can mount it up here, you can mount it on the shoulder, and I used that list, and I went through it.
Well, I contacted a couple of them. One of them in particular is Patrol Eyes. In fact, I have an email from them.
Yes, sir.
Patrol Eye cameras are equally as good, if not better, than Taser's cameras. We actually offer 5 different cameras that have all their unique advantages based upon your needs.
Oh, of course you're going to say that.
Yeah.
But then
Good
if you go to their website, and trust me, I'm not just going by an email, if you go to their website, there on their website are most of the things you just discussed. So my question again is, why don't we have 3 estimates?
We've reached out to several companies, we just couldn't get it back in time in a 2-day period.
Yeah, I talked to Watch.
But our contract doesn't expire until the end of next year.
I talked to WatchGuard too, and they said that they don't have that evidence.com feature yet. When we evaluated all the cameras, what was it, back in 14? We evaluated maybe 5 or 6 different brands and companies, and the only one that mounted up here was the Taser body cam, the Axon. The rest of them were here, and the officers felt like a lot of times that was going to block their view, or block the view of the camera, especially if you look at YouTube and you just go on YouTube and you put in police body cam video, all you see is their hands. You don't see the suspect or what's in their hands. And that's a problem with all the other cameras out there, and none of them have really perfected the shoulder mount yet.
Well,
And then the evidence.com feature, I talked to one of the lead salesmen in the country for WatchGuard yesterday, Kevin Coughlin, and he said, Bob, we don't have that feature yet. He said that's the one thing that Taser Axon's killing us on. He said that's why we can't compete with them yet. They're beta testing some software that hopefully will be out soon to do the same thing, but he said right now we don't have it, and those are the 2 big companies in the country that do this.
These are all just little guys?
So I talked to them too. They started out, he said, selling trail cams and stunt cams, and he said 3 years ago they got into police cams. They haven't been to any chief shows yet. He said they get their cameras from China. He said that they'll warranty them for a year, parts and labor. But they didn't give me a warm and fuzzy they're going to be around next year or the year after. It just sounded like kind of a newer company.
But Catherine's right, we have a policy that we need C3, comparable, preferably one that's a collar mount, and if there's not 3 companies that make those, then as close as comparable.
I think WatchGuard, Kevin told me is they said when they get the specs to do RFPs for big cities, they can't meet the specs of evidence.com. That's how they end up being sole source, because that provides the security and the chain of custody and the evidence
for the police departments that the other companies don't have. Because you can go on YouTube or Google and you can find hundreds of companies selling cameras. But that evidence.com feature is the feature that we all want for evidence. And
what about all the other companies that have similar? It may not be called evidence.com, but all that is an off-site storage capability. And the others have that as well.
It does provide more function than that. It's definitely one of the reasons why Taser is a market leader. But I can tell you, I did talk to Patrol Eyes, and they do have an Epaulet camera. They also they offer different methods of storage, and most of these have either local storage or cloud storage. But the difference being with evidence.com, it's a whole application wrapped around it, so it keeps track of who accessed it, whether it was shared, with a defense attorney, when they accessed it, how long they looked at it. So it keeps a log associated with each piece of digital evidence, and the evidence can come from other sources too. So it doesn't just have to be video; it can be a picture of something that was uploaded to it. The difference with something like local storage, and there is a high cost to that, by the way. I mean, they make a lot of money with evidence.com. If you look at any of their, Axon's a public corporation, if you look at any of their reports, all the buzz is around evidence.com because that's where they're making the money. It's not unlike Amazon, doesn't make a lot of money selling products, but the back-end technology makes a lot of money for the company. And it's the same type of thing with evidence.com and Axon. With Patrol Eyes, they have a local storage solution where you drop it in the dock. It not only charges the battery, but it also downloads the video into a specific set of folders that you set up. So it's putting it automatically onto your network, but then it's our responsibility then to ensure that who can access that, how can they access it, what can they do with it once they access it. Are we keeping a log of it? And I think we've already heard, logs are challenging under the best of circumstances. So evidence.com wraps all that together in an automated way.
Patrol Eyes also has an off-site storage capability program they offer. But my point is, in bringing this up, is we require 3 bids. Not having those 3 bids, we don't have anything to compare. We can't say, oh, okay, this company doesn't have this feature, but this one does. That's what bids give us. And it just seems to me that we're going for the Lamborghini instead of the Volkswagen. Or the Chevy, which is kind of the middle stable, or Ford, if you go that way.
And any competitor's bid will have to add $11,000 to it because we still have a 2-year contract to go on Axon, correct? And it's not going to wash.
That's right.
How do we know? How do we know they don't want to compete for our business and say, oh, if you're going to go out now, blah, blah, blah. But we don't know this because we don't have it in front of us. We can't compare these. That's, we have a policy, 3 bids. And there's a reason we have it. Not just to make it difficult for you, but it's so that we can look, we can see. Right now I have a Lamborghini on the table.
At this time, that Lamborghini is going forward for 5 years.
That's right.
And it would wipe out the last 2 years of the current contract. If you went with a competitor, we'd still have to pay those 2 current years, those 2 years with the current contract, and then pay the new competitor.
Or maybe a competitor would be cheaper, hands down. We don't know.
Or
Because that hasn't been done.
Wait out the 2 years.
Wait out the 2 years.
So,
You bought 12 cameras with the first contract.
And there's only 4 working.
well, we'd have to,
On my understanding, there were 4 that needed to be repaired.
4 are down, so we'd have to replace.
So you have 8 cameras that are functioning.
Well,
Have
Some
they,
of them
have
need
they
batteries.
functioned for
The
these?
batteries aren't lasting, so
Okay, so
there'd be some expense.
my question is, have those needed to be repaired? What have you repaired in the past years?
Well, the reason we got into the discussion about the TAP program is because they came to me and said we need to replace them, so, and that's
The
how
4
we got to
cameras.
here. Yeah, but they
my
said
question
that
is,
the
what have you
batteries are...
repaired in the past 2 years? 3
we haven't
years?
sent anything in for repair because it would cost, we're beyond the warranty, so it's going to cost us money to repair. And
Okay, So you,
If it's not repairable, then we have to replace it. So, and everything with this current contract, like to get those 2 detective cameras, it had to go to their legal department because it dealt with the contract. So now we have to go through legal to get a new camera, to replace a broken camera. With the TAP program, if it gets run over by a car, if it gets lost in the snowbank, they replace it from question.
No
so
question.
you're talking about $20,000 is what that costs us, that program costs us. And it looks like, I mean, it's hard to figure, I will admit it's hard to figure, but the value of those cameras, I don't remember what I said, are like, cameras and all the other stuff is
I think the first
less
year
than
was-
$10,000.
If we,
So,
in the past, we've looked at 3 bids, and, you know, me being a selectman and looking at body camera equipment and looking at it, I myself would look at Tim and say, well, what do you think, Tim? And now I have an opportunity to look at Tim and say, well, what do you think, Tim? And he's coming to us and saying, this is the best right now is Taser, and this is what I think you should go with is Taser. And I don't have to turn and say to anyone and turn around and say, hey, Tim, what do you think? Because I already know what he thinks. And I'm going to rely, as I have for the last 9 years, on our finance director because he's already checked out all these other companies.
Then why did you vote yes on that policy?
obviously,
Why do we have
he
the policy?
hasn't.
I think one thing I don't want to do is get into a debate between any of the selectmen amongst each other. So if everybody can make a statement how they feel about it, and we'll go around Ashley and Peter, and then ask questions about that and why, like as you said, why
John, too, that the sales rep said that he would be available for questions too, and so he's kind of on standby. If I need to call him, people can ask him questions. He would gladly get on speakerphone with the board if anyone had.
So
Sarah,
Ashley, if you have anything you want to bring up or ask, I want to make sure that
Yeah, just what she pointed out about the 3 bids. We all voted on that and agreed. So I want to do this for you, but at the same time, I want to stick with what we've already said, which is we just need to see 3 different bids. And I'm not saying that you haven't done your research, because it sounds like you guys have on all those companies, but we agreed for the town that we as a board would look at 3 different bids if we're spending more than 2,500, or what is it?
1,500.
More than 1,500, so I think we raised it from like 500. So I think we should stick to that.
But do we?
I think
Do we what?
Wait, hang on. Just Ashley, you finish. Then
Yeah, that,
Peter, good.
so I truly feel that that evidence.com is a sole source feature right now until WatchGuard, if they can come out with it in June, and some other company that I can trust. Right now, I don't. Talking to Kevin yesterday, he said there's no one else out there that has what evidence.com is doing for law enforcement, and doesn't work for them. He works for their #1 competitor, which is WatchGuard. And he said, we have had people behind the scenes trying to create this for a couple of years now. We're going into beta testing in June, but he said, I get requests from cities for bids to bid against Axon all the time. And he goes, I can't. And then he told me that yesterday, so I feel until 2 other companies come out with that same exact product, and you can spec out the security of evidence.com, and if you spec it out the way they have it locked down, 6 different locations in redundancy, no one else can write the same specs. They can say they locally store it, they can say their server in Michigan is secure. I just don't believe it. I really, honestly, we put a lot of, I'd say 8 months into this research.
so again, I believe you. That's what we just agreed to this. This wasn't like an old policy that should be changed. But if it should be, then we should look at that policy as well, the 1,500, and maybe we should change that. But I don't feel comfortable like picking and choosing when we stick to the policy. So I'm sure this is the best one, and I trust your opinion. I have to see 3.
Peter?
So we can.
The multi-one, do we have 3 different bids? The Kawasaki loader, do we have 3 different bids? the trailer to haul, the Kawasaki loader, 3 different bids?
I think the trailer we did.
No, no, you're thinking of the trailer for the pickups.
Before.
This is the one that hauls the loader. It's probably a dual axle, dually trailer.
So maybe we should do away with the policy, like I'm saying. I wouldn't even have thought of it if you didn't bring it up. I would have just said, yeah.
After we made those purchases, there was a conversation with the Board of Selectmen that we weren't sticking with that. And that's when we raised it to $1,500. So if we're not gonna require 3 bids, I agree with Ashley, just get rid of it. I mean, my main concern here is we're barely out of town meeting. Now I hear you've been researching this for 8 months. So for 8 months,
Not this year, that was in 2014.
or
Originally.
2014. So how long have you known that we were going to need to do this, that there was going to be this extra cost? Because
We started looking.
this
into
is
it
not budgeted. This should have been budgeted.
Probably like.
And now you're asking us to overspend our budget, which I won't do.
I mean, when it first came up, a couple weeks ago, I called 3M to see if I could use their grant towards it. They said, yeah, they just haven't met yet. So they're, you know, they typically have given us anywhere from $3,500 to $5,000. They gave me $12,000 for Cellbrite in total, without batting an eye. When I mentioned this project to them, they said the same thing. It shouldn't be a problem, chief. Problem is they haven't met yet to divvy up the grant money between me and the fire department. So I told Tim, I said I could take that money that they give me. I think it's the first year of the contract, it's an extra 32 or 3,600.
36.20.
I can take the 3M money and that wipes out that extra cost the first year. And then I can ask 3M, are you okay if I spend that the additional years, which would far exceed that extra, what, 1,600?
So you're like, maybe.
Well, more than likely, we'd probably have to budget it in subsequent years and then hope to get the grant. We couldn't plan on that. But I can tell you that I felt much the same way, Catherine. I felt, you know, gosh, timing is everything. You know, had we known this weeks prior, you know, we could have, you know, made an amendment to the budget at town meeting, you know, if that was warranted, if the selectmen felt that was warranted. But I do see this as, you know, as a sole source type thing. The PD is trained on this, they're trained on the cameras, they know how to use evidence.com. It's fully integrated into our process, you know, from start to finish. So for me, that's how I looked at it. And I had not, you know, looked at every other company out there. I was aware of other ones, I was aware of WatchGuard, I had looked at that prior when the PD was evaluating those. And from time to time, I'd look to see, you know, what other types of technology are available. But the benefit here is looking at what we're projecting to pay out between now and the end of the contract, not only for repair but also for the contract term, versus what it would cost us to get all new equipment and to have everything covered, you know, A to Z. So for me, we don't go and get 3 different bids each year on their application software, which is $9,000. We don't go out and get it on certain other things because we have such an investment in that part of our infrastructure to be able to operate efficiently. Now, granted, this is probably less of a learning curve, less of an impact as, say, software that they're using on a day-to-day basis, but still there are a number of things like that we all sort of agree are sole source. And that's how I view this. So, you know, that's how I looked at this particular thing when I was making my recommendation. In terms of also the cost and benefit, you know, what do we have to pay out between now and the end of that contract for repairs and the contract itself versus what we would have to pay in this new agreement.
So, everybody's asked, and gathered all the information they need to make a vote on the motion. Anybody else need any more information? So,
I'd just like to add one thing.
go ahead.
I'm not sure what the hesitancy is in just bringing the other 2 bids, but I'll say I can't vote for it while that we have that policy, unless there's 2 other bids. Or we vote to do away with that policy, because it sounds like we're not really following it.
I have one question. If we did vote no, that doesn't squelch it forever. You know, there could be additional information that could rectify it. And
Is there any reason why we couldn't have those other quotes?
I get it last week.
well, we don't have them now, so why don't we go ahead and vote on the motion and then move from there. 'Cause we're already like 35 minutes past
Do you have,
what we intended.
do you have it, Captain?
I have one quote out, from a competitor, and I've put out requests for other quotes, it's just they haven't come back in yet, so, I can probably have it by next week, it's just.
You've put out bids, and you only got 2 back.
Well, counting the Axon, there's 2. I've got one from it's Stalker Radar, but that's the company. There's all top tracks. And they sent a quote to me today. And I've put requests for quotes out on other.
And they didn't come back. Well, the same thing with the linoleum, we put bids
So,
out, they didn't come back.
well, actually, I want to get the motion, just deal with it and get it done with, because even no matter which way we vote, it can always be addressed again. So I think that the question is more of from the selectmen, of just a policy thing, and we got a motion on the table, and it's, we're 35 minutes past.
So we're done discussion?
Unless any of the selectmen have a question that they would ask.
I did.
Go ahead.
Waiting a week, Tim, what does that do to the contract with Axon? Because you need it by what, the end of the month is your,
I think we can, I think they
Negotiate.
would understand if we were to wait a week.
okay?
And to me, the real difference between any of these quotes is going to be evidence.com, so maybe that's something the board should maybe take a look at and hear from Jesse, because he's a big user of that. I mean, that's a real differentiator between the different solutions.
So no matter what bid we get in, they're not gonna have evidence.com.
That's right, that is owned by Axon.
And that's what Kevin Watchcott said to me yesterday. He goes, Chief, I can bid it. He goes, but I can't offer you what
We
they...
can have 10 bids and we're still not gonna get evidence.com.
That's going to be apples and orange bids because of that.
Right.
Plus,
You all set? Can we make a vote?
I don't know if anybody
Call
wants
the
to hear.
question. All those in favor, say aye. This is Selectmen's motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
So I think we know where we got to go from there. Just put a couple pages together and get it for next week. And I think everybody that's, if anybody else has any more questions during the week, just send them out.
I just can't wait to see how they divvy up between the bids because it's an apples and oranges. You can't compare, so. You want the 3? Y'all wait for that.
You want to... Jesse brought a video. Do you want to see it?
Can we hit it up next week or something? And
I can certainly play it next week.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to hear about evidence.com.
or a link to it that people could look at? Or
I would like to hear about evidence.com next week,
Okay.
I
personally.
think that's
I think it's important
the
if
whole
that's the
reason
only
why
thing that's holding the
those.
whole thing together on Taser, absolutely.
A lot of times, there isn't another competitor with the same thing,
But there
As for
are
late-
those
as-
that are similar.
but as for layman, yeah. We have
Nice.
a choice.
I didn't have anything in it this morning.
It's
It does now.
6:15, we'll grab a public input. Yeah.
I think we need to make a motion to do this. This is crazy.
But there's a reason why we have it.
I know, but
I think
we
it's a
never
good reason.
follow through. We're never consistent. We always just When it's-
The majority of your public works equipment bought last year, I think, was single
That's when we
bid.
had that conversation, and John said, let's up it to 50.
The year before with the multi-one, same thing?
So,
Oh, I said no, I said keep it at 500.
oh, did you
Oh,
pay
yeah.
up at the 1,500?
No.
And I thought we were gonna go forward from
Somebody
there,
said it.
but we're
Somebody-
not. We don't go forward. If we're gonna go forward, that's okay. If we're not,
Yeah, we can
then
get,
get rid of the 3 bids.
No, it makes sense, it's purposeful, and I'm sure they did do their research, but our job is to hold them accountable, which we don't do, that's part of the problem. We
Except-
If it's a sole,
hold them accountable.
Except
You
they
did your
didn't do the research, because one said, well, only one company has this, but yet I talked to a company and I knew they had that epilepsy.
Joyce, you still-
Because he talked to him as
Prepping?
well.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
That's what
Okay.
the 3 bids gives us, keep them,
Well,
just keeping them accountable. If we don't have that,
That's exactly right, but
This will be the first thing I'll bring up. Yes, I said it. Pass it around, please.
I'm gonna be able to sign this stuff. So I can't pay attention to the meeting.
Laptop, not that I'm making excuses, but it wasn't charged.
Oh, no.
You want to sign in on mine? You want to sign in on mine?
sounds like the 615.
It's still charging. Oh, I mean, to use yours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's okay.
No. Joyce, we did have somebody else. I'm just going to make a quick thing. Do you want to finish yourself up, or did you want?
I think this is Deborah, right?
Yeah, our
Yes.
615.
Oh, is this a tan?
I don't know what. I apologize.
I don't have to read.
What, no, I got to give you another
Behind.
second, yeah, so.
We were behind.
I was supposed to be done in 15 minutes?
No, you're supposed to be starting 45 minutes ago.
I was supposed to start 45 minutes ago?
Yeah.
They ran over, Joyce, it's not you.
Just by a little bit.
No.
It's not you. No, it's not you.
Fine, okay. Yeah, can I defer
Yeah.
and yield?
Everybody okay with that? Yeah. I'll do it. Scheduled by 3 minutes. So, okay, so we have public input. You want to come up and introduce yourself? I don't know if you've met all of us.
I have not.
Ken? We'll go around the table.
Hi, Constantine.
Peter Fogg.
And I'm John Scanlon.
hi, I'm Ashley St. John. Nice to meet you.
Catherine Dawson, how are you?
Good. My name is Deborah Schneckloff. Recently moved to the town of Samberton. I am getting very much involved in the town boards in my community. And I just called and spoke with Joyce to see if your select board was aware, to see if your select board was aware of the changes that are going to occur to Route 132 because of this solar project that is going on up on Tower Hill Road. Not sure if it's even a concern, but I thought that maybe the townspeople who live on 132 might be concerned about it.
Piqued my interest? No, it's on Tower Hill.
It's
132 is.
on, the planned project is on Tower Hill Road. However, every telephone pole from J. Jill all the way up 132, up Tower Hill Road, needs to be changed. The company, Clean Energy Collective, they've changed their, I don't know, their statements numerous times, but the last statement at the ZBA meeting, they said that the poles were going to be 45 feet tall. Today, I went to Eversource down in Tilton there and spoke to a gentleman, and his last name was King. Can't remember his first name, but I did write it down. He told me that if Eversource was going to get the job, he said there may be some scuttlebutt already at Eversource, but he, really couldn't give me that information. That the poles could be anywhere from 45 to 55 feet tall, down 132 all the way through the little historic area of Samberton up Tower Hill to where the array is going to go with three-phase power. So it's a significant change in telephone poles. So just as myself being proactive, I am just trying to, see if everyone is aware of what is going to be occurring there.
I was
What is the reason for that height?
The poles have to be, and they're not only height-wise changing, but girth-wise changing to carry the three-phase electric wires.
It's 50 feet from the solar farm.
It's proposed 25 megawatt.
Why wouldn't they just bury them at that point?
Yeah.
But your standard pole back in the day, even 30 years ago, was 40 to 60 feet. Your standard telephone pole, electric pole, was 40 to 60 feet. But if they're extending the girth, that's a big problem.
Right.
But your normal telephone pole, other than downtown Tilton, on a road is anywhere from 40 to 60 feet.
The poles on the road now are 40 feet, and they're in the ground. There are some bigger ones, but the majority of the poles are 40 feet now, and in the ground 5 feet. So
what about how long would that take? How would the road be closed?
Maybe
Before
Well,
and
you know what
next.
I mean. Work all summer on that road? I don't know.
right, I mean, it's going to be, I did ask today at Eversource how long a project like that would take, and he said until it's put in front of them, they really don't know. They could maybe sub it out. It could take less time if they sub out contractors to come in and do it. But clearly it's going to take some time, and obviously, some traffic delays, but
are there actual solar panels going on the poles themselves, or is it
No.
is it some type of transformer or something?
No, it's your three-phase power.
three-phase,
Lines,
so,
So it's
Right.
a different. Okay.
yeah,
they're
so.
plugging into their system.
So it depends on what they use. There are different ways. Clean Energy Collective says that they'll use like a triangle so that the wires are in, like a round bunch or like in a triangle. Other people say that, it could be bigger than that triangle. It all depends, really. I don't think that Clean Energy really has the power to say how Eversource is going to do it. So, and I know that there are not a lot of trees on 132 until you get up into Samberton more,
To the
but
village, yeah.
right, clearly trees will have to be, cut in order to,
That's it.
Yeah.
but I just am trying to do as much research as I can and awareness that I can for our town in hopes that this does not go through, but I wanted Tilton to know that
Yeah,
this.
that's really,
Is there another hearing coming up, or public forum or anything?
Well, they had a zoning board hearing because they needed variances for the property that they're using. Unfortunately, our town put together a ordinance pretty quickly, like in a month's time, to get it on the ballot and get it voted in so that the town has an ordinance. Because right now, Samberton didn't have an ordinance. I'm not sure if Tilton has an ordinance for solar, but Samberton did not. And so the planning board thought that if they got this on the ballot and got it voted, that it would give them some power, in order to say, what setbacks are and that sort of stuff. However, in the ordinance, it states that this commercial solar array can go in any zone. So they ended up pulling their variances because they didn't need them now, because the ordinance states that it can go in agricultural, residential,
Go in your backyard.
forestry,
Yeah, and the selectmen, I was at the selectmen's meeting when they approved
that pilot.
the agreement with them.
Correct, and unfortunately, another thing that has happened is, so when they signed that pilot agreement, they signed it for a 25 megawatt. The town was going to make $60,000. However, that 25 megawatt has now gone down to a 13 megawatt, but they are actually only starting with 5 megawatts. So now the town is going to make $15,000.
And all the roads, so 132 is a state numbered route. And I believe the road up through the square, I don't remember where the Bay Road project ended. That's probably now a town road, but I believe at least to Tower Hill Road is a state numbered road too. So it's a state road. So there's no control the town would have
On,
to control the poles except on Tower Hill.
I guess we should check also and see where the power is going after it gets to the end of 132.
The power lines there.
Right.
They've got to come to those power lines.
Yeah,
Right.
The ones on 132
The
up by the,
J2.
Just
Yeah.
past J.
yeah,
Jill.
they have to come to those,
so the ones up by the business park,
yeah. they'll
that's
send
where
it
they
up there.
come in.
Yeah, that's where they're tying in.
I don't know if there's anything the property owners would do or want to do that live on 132, but
Right. That was why I thought I would bring it here in hopes that, maybe residents that live on 132 don't want these bigger poles in their front yards. I mean, pretty much all those houses are close to the roads, so the poles in your front yard, so.
Well, and again, how long the project would be my biggest concern. That would be quite an annoyance.
Right.
Construction takes time.
it's a
That's
big
unfortunate
project to
that
replace
you-
poles.
It is a big project to replace
Yeah,
poles.
if we replace a pole a day, if,
And are people gonna be out of power and for how long? And
no, you won't be out of power.
mm-mm.
No, they, well, so, yeah.
What's the normal height of a telephone pole now? 20 feet?
No,
Normal what?
40,
Oh,
45.
they're 40, all right.
There's
40.
40 to 50 and there's 5 to 8 feet in the ground for a telephone pole. Eversource is a little bit different. Eversource is about 5 feet in the ground. Their policy is a little bit different.
It's marked right on the pole, Eversource told me. If,
Yeah.
you go and walk and look at the poles.
And
It's stamped on the poles, and they're stamped 40.
Depends on who owns the pole.
Right,
The top stamp is the one that owns the pole. If the telephone is the top, they own the pole. If Eversource is the top, they own the pole. And then whoever's on the bottom, they don't own the pole, but they have that license to.
would there be anything done to the pavement?
No.
No, if there is, they have to
Well,
make it,
Right, because they just redid
Right.
that road.
hmm?
I was just thinking they just redid that road. I
Yeah.
was trying to think of ways to help you.
We can
Talk
go to the
state or
state
you
reps,
go.
but the state reps are in Sanderton. Did you talk with the state reps?
no.
Dennis Fields did a lot of work on getting that road repaired and renewed the repair recently with the state and getting monies to repair 132. We might want to talk with him to see what kind of damage that would do to the road 132, because it went all the way from Walgreens all the way up into Sanderton,
Right.
that repair.
Will all those wires follow the road, or do they need to cut across the fields for Roger Rabbit? Sometimes they do that.
Further up, there's where it goes into Cropsey's. It goes across the road, but that's it. Where
Just
Cropsey
crosses.
lives, doesn't cross the road.
Sometimes they'll cut across the field or something.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for hearing me, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate the information.
Please keep us in
Please-
tune.
Yeah, keep
I
us
talked to Jay
informed.
Jill, I don't know if they could do anything, or like a bigger,
Not really, it's in the right of, it's in the right of way.
They're a
Utility.
California corporation. They don't
Vigils
own it.
after the power lines.
Yeah, they are.
oh, it's starts at Business Park Drive?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
I wasn't
That's
clear on what you were
because
saying.
Eversource
Yeah.
is there,
Okay.
that's why.
Right, where
So
those
they're
power
gonna
lines go across,
into
that's where the
Business Park Drive.
substation is, so.
That's why.
That's not waterfront, that's
Big
swamp.
maple trees.
Yeah,
through
that
there,
solar
too.
project.
Yeah, I guess they came to your select
Glad we
board
didn't do
and-
it.
Right.
Yeah.
There was, yeah, a lot of unanswered questions.
There
It was
is
hazy.
a lot of unanswered questions. I wish I was here back then when it was proposed to our town, but I wasn't, so I just moved here, but I'm gonna do what I can to.
Oh,
Good luck.
that's great, though.
Yeah, thank you again
Okay,
for
yeah,
hearing.
thanks.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
All right, you too.
I did get a copy of Samberton's ordinance, and I forwarded it to the land use office, and I asked Ari to take a look at it and see if it's something we should consider in the future. Please be aware.
Post-it note, thank you.
What?
Hit a post-it note to do that, thank you.
Oh, okay. You like Post-it notes, all right, we'll remember that.
Their
Okay.
ordinance, did you say you got a copy of Samberton's ordinance and you think we should copy it?
No, I just forwarded it to Dari just to see what they're doing, and maybe it's something that we're
What
interested
went
in.
wrong?
Yeah, we don't want to allow it in
Right.
every district,
Di-
not commercially. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Disposition of abatement forms I had in the folder, did you have any questions about any of them?
I don't.
I have one down on Route 3, wasn't waterfront, now it's waterfront. I'm very familiar with that property.
Mhm.
I'd be hard pressed to call that waterfront, that's swamp. I mean, that's,
Wetlands.
Yeah, but it
excuse
does
me.
have access, he does have access to the water. He can get down to that. Or is that the one that they're in
What
a
are we
survey
talking?
dispute? Is that the survey dispute?
John.
Which street?
It's one I
The
went back and forth.
abatements.
You want to read
Was
the
it-
same thing, you should read the legal challenges going on back and forth.
Okay, I didn't want to sign it because as I said, I would not consider that valuable waterfront. And, you know. And I don't know how she looked at that assessment. Did she assess it as though I have a parcel, I have a house and there's a bunch of us and we all have access to a beach, which is, maybe half a mile down the road? How did she assess that water frontage?
Well,
I'm getting assessed for water frontage that they're not going after the legal owner, just the people who have rights.
on this, I have to look up whatever the code for MPU means.
Lesser
But,
value.
I mean, you've got
They
4
divided
signatures
it,
on
uh,
it.
It
so-
says natural waterfront,
7
lot
properties.
28.
The value divided it.
That's so
Um,
long. The natural
That's
water
what's
front
done.
is so long. But like I said, you've got 4 signatures on it, so you
No,
don't
it's
need
mostly
mine.
sold.
You asked if we had any questions, I just wanted you to know why I didn't sign it.
Okay.
I didn't skip over it.
Okay, Caleb Hill Road, still waiting to hear back from them. And also at the same time, we're gonna talk about the culvert, results of your Andrews Road meeting. I forgot, I set that out so I'd bring that poster board up. Do you want me to go get that now, Pat?
Also, the board wants to talk about it, it's up to John.
Oh, Brock's report, you have Brock's report? You wanna read Brock's report and I'll run down and get that?
We'll get an email from Brock,
You should have a copy
Yeah,
of
I will.
those.
and, I mean, we can talk about it. If it's not a rush, I'd like to forego it. We're already like almost an hour behind. I don't think anything's going to change. The other nice thing would be to have all the snow melt so we can see how much is actually.
Well, she's running down to get the pictures, you might tell her not to.
I think it's really easy. I mean, number one, if we follow our winter maintenance policy, which in it says that we we go down the middle of the road with our tin and salt. And right now, we're currently doing both sides, that might help. And I mean, it also save us on salt,
Yeah, so we'll discuss it, and one of the things that,
but I think he's expecting an answer from tonight's meeting.
trying to look beyond the actual what's occurring and looking into solutions, one of the things, and I've heard Peter repeatedly say it, well, remember that, and as well as this fellow and Brock, about salt. Now, that's a low salt area, or
No
no
salt.
salt area. Why was it declared a no salt area? Is it because of there were dug wells when it originally made that rule that you can't use salt? And Peter brought this up. And now, most people have artesian wells. Does that make it change that maybe we should be using some salt or low salt?
When I first became a selectman, I asked that. Dave Watley was on the board. And he indicated it was because of the huge wetlands and Silver Lake.
Can we look at that and see if, we hash that over and whether or not we should be changing that or behind it?
Isn't
I
that
did ask.
different?
I'd like to look at the entire groundwater protection district in the town of Tilton.
Isn't that a different discussion than how we deal with the excess sand that's being dumped on town property
It
there?
sort of is, but it's relative because if we could use salt and run a little bit of salt down the middle of the road, or some type of salt substitute, it would use less sand and less of an impact. And it would also solve problems with freezing roads and stuff like that Brock's been working on. That's why I did ask Dari if there's a way to find out how many people have wells now that are artesian as opposed to dug. If we could find out some history of that, that's what I thought.
Anytime.
John doesn't want to discuss it tonight.
Well,
She doesn't want to discuss it.
we kind of started dipping into it, so might as well, let's have at it. Is everybody okay with that?
He is expecting some sort of resolve
Yes.
tonight.
And he was sorry, he couldn't
Property
make it,
owner.
but he had another commitment. I'll stand here, how's that? Want me to move it closer?
Can you spin the wheel, Vanna?
Okay, where are we looking at? Who made this?
These are
The
pictures
property
taken
owner.
from the property owner.
Okay, so who made this?
Yeah.
It's an open.
See that? Right up on
So
the
I
stage.
know who's.
Take a look at that, so
Bias.
people on the camera can see that we're showing.
So this is his property. These are pictures I took.
Okay.
This is if you come up, so this is the corner. If you come up in Manville, that's the corner. Crystal goes off this way. So it's showing you what they've plowed.
Is this his property?
Nope, the town's property is down in here.
So where does his property start?
Oh, back, these trees are very close to his boundary lines.
Oh, so this is still our property?
Yes, what happened in this area, these parcels were subdivided out, boundary lines, and then the rest was given to the town for road. Here, I'll show you on that survey.
Brock had a suggestion.
This is the survey of his property. You can see boundaries. Here. This is belongs to the town, so this is being the right of way. This is owned by the town.
What's your copy? They all have some.
Oh, they all have one? This one for you.
I do, but.
It's aesthetically unpleasing to them.
So Brock sent this out, did everybody take a look at that?
Yep.
It would be nice if Brock was here.
Well, he
It'd be this-
couldn't be here, that's why I submitted that.
Can we push this off till next week? Because I don't think we're going to be able to solve it, that will make an impact on next year's season.
I just think Joyce be ready to, if he calls and looking for a result, just be ready to respond. Because he he was anticipating an answer, but, yeah.
Could we,
Just we're giving it due
Is there a
diligence.
reason why we can't say, go ahead and allow him to try a small amount of sand salt mixed down the center of a portion of Manville Road and Andrews? Is there a reason why in the past that we've not allowed to do that?
Someone's at the well.
because we declared that a no salt area, right? I don't, and I asked Dari about it, what defines that? I just saw him this afternoon, and can he look and see what the wells are? And see what, where did that come about, declaring that?
It wasn't because of wells. It was environmental, more because of the wetlands that are surrounding it down there.
Are you sure?
That's
Vicky,
what I asked
Vicky
Dave.
said it was back in the 70s.
That's what I asked Dave.
Could we ask Dari to take a look at that? Because that might be a cure for it. Is that an impact area still, or is there?
It's part of the groundwater protection
Depends on
district.
how you go. If you look at UNH, they're all of a sudden now just, the fact of the matter is, the state of New Hampshire spreads salt all through Route 3, which goes right down the middle of our town. So when it's warm, they probably don't get Silver Lake so much. The aquifer that abuts Mansville is getting salt from.
The whole of Route 3 is pretty much in our groundwater protection district.
That's right. So they're getting the salt.
So,
But I don't think just adding some salt to the sand is going to solve this issue unless we go according to our policy and we spread it in the middle of the road. And if you read our policy, it'll tell you to do that and that the traffic will dissipate it to the sides. When they're sanding over to the side, I don't think he's going to be happy with any amount of sand that gets thrown into that trees and stuff.
well, I think there's probably a combination of things that would be the alternative. And one of them would be, can we change over salt? If
We can do whatever we want, of course. The selectmen are the ones who set that policy.
So, but we should do it thoughtfully and make sure that there's a good reason for it, to establish a low salt, or, I don't know,
I think we
per
should,
foot
I
or
think we
something.
should visit that. I think we should take the time and visit whether or not we put salt down there, because I think that makes sense for us to go down the middle, put some salt sand like they do on all the other roads. I mean, it's done, we did it a couple of years back when we had some huge potholes and things up across the railroad track on Manville. Remember that? And we just dumped salt to get rid of the salt up along the trees, and then we cut the trees down. So that kind of eliminated that issue there. But we did put just salt down to get rid of those ruts that they.
Yeah, but that only
Ice was
softened them. They
causing.
came in with a loader to get rid of them.
Right.
Because salt can actually can make it worse if you don't use it right.
And pre-salting and all that.
Thaws
So
it all out just in time for it to freeze.
That's what I was thinking, if Brock is here, we ask Dari maybe to take a look at that whole wetlands issue and use of salt and what the state, the guidelines are, which we know what they do. Just look at any forward.
Makes it feel like what we do is redundant.
Why would we want to do the state guidelines?
Well,
Because
just.
they're doing Route 3 now.
Worse than we are.
They dump just salt. They don't have a sand salt mixture.
If you want to look at guidelines, I suggest you look at UNH. They have quite a wetlands bureau over there.
Yeah,
That sound like a plan?
yeah, it
to
does,
do
but
it.
don't do the state because the state is horrific in that area.
Yeah.
That's what not to do.
John, I think you're
Like I
on a
said,
roll.
let's look at our cars.
Exactly, yeah.
So what are we gonna tell them if he calls, Joyce?
We're kicking the can again.
They're still
We're-
deliberating.
Tell them that the public works director was unable to come in and fully discuss it.
Will I still be
Thanks for
selected
coming up with
for
solutions.
How many years is it gonna take?
So if we come up with a real fast solution, it may not be a real thoughtful one.
What's gonna happen on Saturday when it snows? Are we gonna
Rain
allow him
will
to
wash
try
away.
it? Can we at least allow him to try it?
Now, I would say when it snows, if he follows our policy.
But can we ask him
Spreads
to
it in the
try it?
middle of the road.
Can we,
I'm not prepared to vote salt now.
Catherine,
I would like to have more input. UNH has just come out of studies on the adverse effect of salt on the roads. Maybe DOT will listen to it, but I'd rather, as John said, give it some due diligence, and if he's going to spread anything out there, and I don't see that he would, because we're supposed to get sand, snow, stuff. I mean, what am I saying, rain and snow. But have him follow the policy.
even
down
if
the
he,
middle?
Down the
even if
middle.
he does, you get
Five
sand
minutes
in
down the middle.
property's land.
Say again? Even if
Whenever, you can sand down the middle. The next storm when you plow, you're picking that up, kicking it in the bank. When you push the banks back, it rolls it further. So as long as you do sand, it's adding to the problem.
He's not going to be pushing the banks back.
So I don't think
He
we're going to
should.
solve it tonight.
No, you're right.
And can we take a look at it and let them know?
Yep. We have
Let's
to,
get
we're
it
way
done.
behind.
Let's get- yeah.
Okay.
So-
Well, I'd like to, if we're going to do that, look at the entire groundwater protection district then.
And, you know, exactly, we'll look at where the ordinance came up from and on that. So,
Okay, Geico, this has been going on since December? Is that when the accident happened? So they keep wanting more information, more information, more information. So I just went ahead and sent a third, more detailed explanation of Belknap Landscaping's, the work that they're gonna do. Geico did go ahead and approve reimbursing 100% the 3 invoices I had submitted for the electrical to do the light pole. And I didn't know how that hasn't been done yet. He had moved an old one.
So what we had Carter do is, because he wasn't having any luck finding exact matching replacements, we had him go down in the far south, was it western, Peter, corner?
Oh, yeah. Down south, just then.
Yeah, down south. And move a pole up to the front where that would be more obvious. And the close match, if we can only get a close match, we'll put down there.
Okay,
So he still will have to install a pole, it'll just be in a different
Okay.
location.
We'll purchase another pole and install it.
We will still be
Okay.
purchasing a pole and
And
installing.
have we paid him anything yet?
I hope to God so, because that was before Christmas.
Okay.
This event took place in November, because our Christmas event was the first Saturday,
Okay.
and we moved the pole so we'd have it for
We
the
paid
Christmas event.
Okay, well, we did get reimbursed then.
So that
I
was.
don't think we got reimbursed,
No,
I
no.
think we paid Carter though.
Right, you paid Carter, and what I'm saying is I have the check to reimburse for all that plus.
Right.
That's all.
Okay.
So if you already paid that.
The Board of Selectmen paid that, I don't believe it
Okay,
came.
then we'll keep that in.
Yeah, I don't, but you can ask Tim, but I'm pretty sure because it was the result of the accident,
Okay, yeah.
and those monies were anticipated.
Yes.
I don't think you took it out of the Park Commissioner's portion of the Selectmen's
Okay.
budget.
All right. So anyway, so I said, well, look, go ahead and send, because we can't wait anymore, because we got to order the bollards and everything. I said, but Belknap Landscape, they're our contractor for the park, and they've got to get these things in, and they're the ones putting it in. I made that very clear from them from the start. So, so I sent a third breakdown, same amount of money. And they said, well, we'll have our adjusters look at it again. So I'll just start calling them every day, because it's ridiculous. He was saying that to do all that work was going to take 2 people, 16 hours. So 2 people 1 day to replace 5
That's
posts.
2 days. 16 hours is 2 8-hour days.
No,
Yeah, but 2 people.
two
Two
people,
Two
one day.
people.
2 people
8 hours
for
apiece.
8 hours.
Right.
I thought you meant 2 people, 16 hours apiece, okay.
At $55 an hour to
Right.
replace 5 posts, a bollard, and repair all the shrubbery and replant flowers and the grass and everything. And I said that was ridiculous.
Joyce, one thing,
They're granite.
dealing with insurance companies and damages, whether it be from floods or ceiling leaks or plumbing or car accidents, one thing insurance companies and their adjusters hate are other adjusters. You can actually get an adjuster to fight them at no cost. They will tack on to that, and usually it ends up costing the insurance company like double or triple what originally they were claimed. So they
Okay.
get scared as soon as they hear that. And if you suggest to them, well, perhaps, you know, we got a difference here, perhaps we should hire an adjuster.
Yeah, well, he
And they'll go, settle.
okay, because he keeps saying, well,
The
you
bullying.
know, you can, just submit more detail and we'll look at it again. And so
Where you
will be the second time that Hayden has submitted more detail.
So
You can
send
just,
with it that
you
So,
know,
information that if
The
this isn't
bollard
approved-
is just,
we'll get adjuster, and maybe we might have to upwards adjust the whole thing.
I do know, having gone through working with adjusters when we've had problems here, because they're all independent, the company hires them independently. They want detail. I mean, they measure everything down to, the nails and how many square feet and how many coats of paint and everything. So I understand that.
And so you can have your own personal adjuster,
Yeah.
just like in a real estate transaction is.
Well, we know who to hire, don't we?
so,
And they will battle it out, and they'll take a commission off of the additional amount that they get the claim for. So insurance companies don't like them.
Yeah, I mean, all in all, they've been pleasant to deal with, but I don't know why they dragged their feet so long on this one. I mean, if they needed more detail, they should have emailed me, instead of me
specifics.
calling them regularly, and I've documented all my phone calls to them. Well, why didn't you tell me you wanted more detail?
So let's give them a time too, as
Okay.
to when we want it approved by, so we don't wait another, 6 months and have to call them back and we didn't have the right information.
Turn it over to our adjuster to handle it.
But we can go ahead and order the bollards and everything, but we should wait until, can the things be delivered to the highway garage?
yeah,
Unless-
the only thing I'm really concerned about is the bollard, as the weather warms, people are actively using the park, they are now using
Yeah.
it. And that cone is just sitting over a hole, and I haven't looked to see how jagged, Peter, have you looked to see how jagged the remaining pieces in there?
No,
Mhm.
I haven't.
Yeah.
So is it
There's-
something that if we go ahead and get it, highway can just?
They're
put that
jagged.
in?
Yeah, highway can, so what happened is they broke it off and there's a piece stuck in
Right.
there. And the highways looked at it,
And
I'm
it's
sure right
sharp.
now they figured out
Okay, so do you want
what
me to
they
go ahead
need
and
to
have
do,
Brock do
pull it
that?
out, just order the bollard and it slides in and locks in place.
Okay, so have highway go ahead and redo the bollard. Okay.
And I believe he has the specifications on the bollards. If he doesn't, it's still in my computer.
Yeah, I have the
Did I give it
invoice,
to you?
yeah, I have all the,
Actually, I gave you
Invoice.
the invoice, the information. And I
okay.
think the park commissioners wanted a taller bollard this time, didn't they, Peter?
I forget.
Well, who should he call, who should he speak to? You before he orders it?
He can talk to me and I'll look it up,
Okay,
and then I'll look back on my minutes, in my minutes.
excuse me. Next thing is, you're saying we're getting more snow now, because I was gonna call Ron and schedule to meet with him again over at the senior center. So it's,
It's just snow and rain, snow and rain, snow and rain, it's not gonna stay.
Poor man's fertilizer.
Exactly.
okay, so that, we'll do that next week. Okay, Island Lights, I'm pleasantly surprised. They agreed to a not to exceed, Northfield Selectmen, a not to exceed figure of paying $1,000.
What was JP Carter's estimate?
2021.
2040. That was his top,
Okay,
so I thought that was nice.
that is very nice.
And we started doing the research on the heirs, which really didn't take that long. I
So,
have
are we gonna tell Carter to go forward?
with which,
The island.
yes,
Eastern
yeah.
Lights. Is that a consensus?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we gotta do.
All right, so
Direct
call
electricity.
JP to start.
Surrounded by water.
And we've made progress so far. We were able to locate where Joy is living, and I have her daughter's phone number and address to call her, and hopefully, because the other two direct heirs, Glenna Felson and Charles Tilton, are both deceased. We were able to go online and look and see that, but didn't get any addresses or any names of, survivors.
Scott has all of that, doesn't he? Because he
Who?
just, Scott.
Glenn had spoken with Scott, but it's different. He said no, and I also said, well, I can also call John Tagg because they did it for the school district. But I went ahead and contacted John Tagg, and he said he would give me whatever he had. So,
Very nice.
And, but somewhere in here I have an email from him. Did I send it to you? About the, what they were willing to pay for legal? Right here. At the meeting last evening, the selectmen asked that we prepare a budget for this endeavor. There are, of course, two parts, locating the heirs and then doing the legal footwork. Wayne's going to forward me the name of the person the school district used when they went through this for Union Sanborn, which I already did. In the meantime, I would appreciate it if you reached out to Christina, which I'm going to do, although I'm happy to do so in your place. If your plate is too full, please let me know. And I said, yeah, I want to call her anyway because I want to see how Joy's doing. So hopefully her children may know where we could find the cousins, if there are cousins. Also, the selectmen agreed to spend up to $1,000 to repair the island lights. They do not need to have their electrician look at it. They're familiar with Josh's work and trust his estimate.
It's very nice.
It is very nice.
And he's also out of Northfield.
Very good. Do you?
Oh, JP lives in?
Yeah, he moved from Tilton.
He moved from Tilton to Northfield.
He used to live on Andrews Road.
So anyway, so we're moving along with that.
Sand.
Bittern Lane drainage swale, both Dari and Al have been doing quite a bit of work on that. He gave me a written report Monday, and it's just, and they've been in contact with, I'm talking about two different things.
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
You're talking about the clear cut.
The clear cut, yeah, the drainage swale.
Yes, I talked
yes.
to Jeffrey at DES.
Yes, Brock said, fine, no problem, as soon as it dries up a little bit more, they will go out and restore that. And then I was gonna write a letter to Dennis Gaudette and M&B, but I just haven't had time to do that, just saying, you know, but if you see any problem, you know, call us and we'll take care of it.
Yes, don't
Don't do that.
take it upon yourself.
Right. The other thing is the information that had come to the board last week about a serious wetlands violation that had been reported to DES, and Al and Dari, I don't know how much they've filled you in on.
I
but-
talked to DES directly,
Oh, you did?
and they filled me in.
Okay. All right, so let's just say that everybody's on top of it.
You know what's going on there? Ms. Lincoln? The wetlands violation, we have an ordinance on 20-foot buffer that you can't touch between it, as well as with Bittern Lane, the people that originally owned it did all these permits and everything. Correct me if I'm mistaken. They sold it. Somebody new bought the property and just started running with what was going on, but never transferred over a permit or something.
Permits expired in February of 2017. There was nothing to transfer over. Worse.
Oh, so the plot thickens, so there is more to it. So they were operating all of that clearing around the pond, and that not only were they within the 20-foot buffer that the town has, but they're in violation of, they didn't have a permit to do any of the wetlands work.
They clear cut the entire property.
And they clear cut.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this.
DES's stance is if you clear cut in the wetlands like they have, and the stumps remain in the soil, and there's no rutting and there's no damage to the earth, it's okay. The minute there is damage to the earth, or this, you know, they try to remove the stumps, then it's a problem.
But I understood they also removed topsoil off-site.
I understand that as well.
And do we know where that
But
went?
when I talked to,
It's the town
and I'm sorry, I can't pronounce Jeffrey's last name, he's a nice fellow down there. He had sent 2 people up to look at it from DES. So it's relatively, that portion is out of our hands and in DES's hands. We're kind of the watchdogs.
Okay, so we have a couple of things.
It's
We have
the-
an ordinance on removing the dirt from town,
Right,
and we also have the 20-foot buffer,
those are ours.
and those are ours, so those are the ones we need to.
And they are, and they're also on top of this because that business is supposed to be putting together a site plan, and they have an engineer that they're working with because it's easier to get in touch with the engineer than it is to get in touch with the owner.
And my question is, okay, so we have these ordinances. So what happens? What's the penalty for doing that? Where are our
It's
teeth?
$1,000 a day.
The last I talked to them about it yesterday, they're proceeding forward. They want to make sure that everything is done correctly. I think that he Daria's had a conversation with Jesse that I believe they want
Yes.
to consult with an
Yes.
attorney to guide them through the process of whatever fines and paperwork they're going to issue, any cease and desist and whatnot, because this will be really a first.
So probably want to keep updated on that, even if we have to do a non-public maybe next week on that. Make sure any suggestions.
Did you want Daria or Al to be here next Thursday, if they've got something to
We could
report?
squeeze them in first.
We did talk about the procedure. Right now, they're trying to comply. I mean, we've got their attention, so it's to get them to do what they have to do. And then we talked about, how do we go about levying the fines?
So a lot of times, a lot of people proceed with stuff and then say, those flatmen.
They may not even have been aware of any of the wetlands permitting and whatnot, because that property, when you first go on it, it was disturbed. They had disturbed that first area, but when they did that, they had the permitting in place. It was all right. So he may not have been aware that he was making a huge violation. When I talked to him a few weeks ago, he was more than cooperative, and
Of course, after the fact, you
no,
can
with the area that he hadn't done the disturbance, somebody else has, but trying to fix it and right it and whatnot. So hopefully he'll continue that way, but we'll see. John's right. We should be kept apprised of what's going on.
Okay, all the notices went out on the town administrator search, and I got to thinking, I got a price on the cost to run an ad in the Manchester Union Leader in their Sunday edition. I think we should run it at least once. So when I asked for a quote on 3 consecutive Sundays, it was going to be close to $800. But I think we definitely should do it at least once, if not twice. And before I did that, I'd have to let her know tonight if we wanted to start that this Sunday.
How much is twice?
Twice would be 2/3 of 800.
I didn't know if 800 was like a deal.
I think we should do it 3 times, see what
3 times. And we can, spread it out over, you do it every other week, or...
And then you're doing it in your municipal thing.
Yeah, all those have gone out. I did look to
At least twice.
At least twice? Yeah.
We looked at, Indeed or something like that.
Indeed?
Oh, Indeed job search.
It's whenever people are looking for work,
Right.
Go to Indeed
that's one of
job.
the first things. It's like Monster.
INDEED.
Is it not on those?
I never knew about it. IND?
DEED.
Indeed.
Well, it's great to know that none of our employees know about where to try and find jobs.
That's why I got first students.
Searching for jobs.
That's like priority, I think, to get it on Monster,
Indeed's huge.
Indeed, over anything else.
Well,
My
Roger,
job
are you
on
going to
it.
be inundated by people coming,
I hope so.
from Arizona and things like that? I mean, what is their
They'll send
catchment
the
area?
resumes.
Right.
I
Okay.
think you can limit it to,
Geographic areas?
yes, I think
Okay.
you can as an
Well,
employer.
why would we?
If somebody's
Somebody has to close-
somebody's going to Google town administrator, then that would come up, or somebody could Google New Hampshire jobs, that could come up. I mean, why limit it? No.
Okay.
I mean, people aren't trying to spend their time sending resumes if they're not serious.
Someone's gonna move here, yeah.
Okay. And so do you want me to do Monster?
Take a look at them.
Yeah, I think.
See what
that
I don't
would
think
be-
it costs to go on, to put in it as an employer.
No, I don't think it does. I think you just need a profile. I guess I assume that would be the first.
You sure?
I think Monster it
Am I
costs.
sure? No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Got it, Indeed.
And LinkedIn, I thought you had to be a member.
Yeah, indeed, I think you need to be a
Yeah.
I don't know
member.
anything about LinkedIn.
They keep inviting me, and just keep erasing.
I get those all the time too.
It's a little tip.
Okay, all right, I can do that, and run it twice, all
But if
right.
it costs money, I'd rather spend the money on Indeed than
in Monster.
2 times in Concord Water.
Not Manchester.
Manchester, yeah.
A
Well,
lot of people look at the Sunday Manchester
Sunday.
just for jobs.
Yeah.
They go out specifically to buy just for jobs.
Yep.
But what
Sundays.
people really do, I think, is just go on their computer at home and look. I think if we had all the money in the world, let's put it everywhere, but I think it's important that it's on Indeed.
Okay, I'll look at that.
I think it might cost you though.
It is.
Joyce, take a look.
Okay.
Next.
And we have gotten some inquiries already, and Gail's keeping track of everything. That's good. Noise Road, about the mailbox, I did talk with her on the phone and notified her, and what I had suggested is, because she said they've lived down there for quite a while, and because they're on the corner, they feel like they're getting the brunt of everything, all the snow and everything. I said, well, you know, I said, why don't I have Brock come down, you know, I'll give him your number, you call, get together, he'll go down and he'll take a look and you can talk to him and let him know. She was very happy with that.
So, is he going down there just to be a diplomat? Because we've made a decision, it's in our policy.
Oh, no, that she accepted that.
Okay.
She
so
accepted that,
he's
but she
going
had
down
other
there to look
concerns
at-
about
Why do
how,
people think they get more snow on a corner?
I don't know.
You get more snow on the in pass than the out.
I don't know.
That's because
It'll
it's
be
a
nice.
shorter
You
radius.
can chat with her.
Well, they'll do more of the road if they can on the first pass.
Okay, cash receipts policy, we're set there now. I haven't written anything. Are we gonna write something up, Gail? No need, okay. Holly Malloy, that's still a work in progress, haven't followed up on that. Research on the island airs is done. The RFP for the Class 5 road off Laconia Road is out. And I know Brock was meeting with one of the paving companies today.
How many paving companies have we sent it to?
I didn't bring my folder.
Probably a dozen.
I emailed what? Anybody had an email address? I think there were, 6 emails and 5, the same ones we did before.
Yeah, it's not a huge job. So I hope we haven't eliminated smaller companies.
No, we have not.
Okay.
We have
This
definitely
is-
not. No.
There's
I incorporated
zillions of
changes.
them out
I would
there.
rather have a paver than a drag box is all to do road work. Some of
Yeah,
you,
but there's a lot of small pavers out there.
yeah, the drag box connects to the mini.
I didn't post like cement.
But
and-
I wasn't clear, when are we gonna have a public hearing? Because I need a couple days just to get together a letter, and I want people to have a copy of the survey and bring them up to speed on what we're doing, and so.
Nick, weren't we waiting for Doug? I mean, are you talking about,
We had originally sent it for next week, which was 2 weeks from when we
Yeah,
talked
this is-
about it,
it's
but
too
I don't
soon.
think it's gonna happen next week.
That's
So
what
move
I'm
it
saying.
out.
Because we had, I think I suggested to him, can you get this, together
He was gonna
in
go
2
talk
weeks
to
and talk
people.
to everybody and
and
get
then
back
he came
to
in, he
us?
said he couldn't do it.
Yeah, but that's parking, that's painting lines on top.
But I think it was-
We have 2 things to decide. The first thing we need to decide, are we going to take back what's encroached upon and include that in the project? And the other is the question you just asked. But it seems to me you may know better where we should put that out, because you know what needs to be done.
Okay, well, the bids are due back April 19th. That doesn't mean the project's gonna start right away.
No.
And then, but we need to decide, I think if we're gonna be going to this expense to be ripping up pavement, and we know that at least one of the abutters wants that ripped out, we should find out if others are interested as well.
But it's our property, we can simply let them know that we will be
Okay. I
taking
see
back
what you're
which is
saying.
ours. That's what we need to decide, do we want to do that or continue to allow them to encroach?
Yeah.
I don't want to throw a crazy question to it, but why wouldn't we entertain turning it over to the property owners and just say, we're going to take care of this one strip down the middle and you guys have the rest? Am I Am I oversimplifying this too much? But
I went round and
Maintenance.
round with this with Brock, okay? It's difficult to take things away from people. It really is difficult because they feel they've had this service for how many, since 73, whenever it was, and to go in and take it away from them when they can't even be neighborly,
Yeah.
you're just throwing a match on gasoline when we've been doing it. We own it.
I can see. Okay,
And so once it's done, then it's gonna be easier for especially pushing the encroachments back, it's gonna be easier for the town to go in and and be out.
or one of these things like where the states, we say to the state, if you fix this road up to complete standards and all that, then we'll talk about taking it back. Could we entertain fixing the strip of the road down the middle, getting it done right, put some drainage, pave it, and then say all those side parts we're turning over to the deeds to them, and it's done, when then we're only responsible for, I don't know, a 20-foot path down the middle.
You're talking about changing our boundary, and we certainly could do that and indeed all that, but doesn't that involve town meeting and?
That also, and also you have people paying some pretty hefty taxes there for getting their garbage picked up.
So, the other thing is, the more road you have, the more parking you have, the better maintenance you have, because you have the ability to work around it. So if we're gonna, I mean, for me, I'm one of those that was like, just give the old Route 3 to them. Let's not spend tens of thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money on it. But
Have them form some type of
they can do whatever they
neighborhood
want, just here,
co-
this
you know.
belongs to all of you guys, so you get this section, you get this, here you go.
Perhaps, you know, like
But-
a co-op type thing where they maintain the road just like in mobile home parks when it gets turned over.
No, but it's like, it's a little mini
Town,
Little
city,
mini-
Main Street.
district area that there's an enterprises going on there, there's businesses there, there's people that's attracted to that. And it's an
That's-
opportunity for people that are
Those,
living in our town that they can be part of those enterprises.
those parcels probably pay more tax than, because they're on the lake,
Yeah,
they have Route 3 frontage, than most of the parcels in town. So maybe they're entitled.
and
but-
when you talk to people, like from here, they're back in, memory lane saying, oh yeah, remember we did this there, and this person was, I mean, it's part of the,
Just-
culture, it's
yeah.
part of the
Hey,
community.
I remember the
I was
old
just trying,
dispute
I
groups,
was just thinking about being creative,
but,
just thinking about it,
yeah, Joyce, when should we have the
not to
hearing?
stop anything that's already proceeding.
Well, I'm just, so he's not gonna go talk to the people to see if they wanna do anything, get together on parking. Right? That's what you said, Pat? Right, so then,
The parking seems to be working, nobody's come in and complained.
okay,
Brock has gone down there and made adjustments for people as we asked him to do,
okay.
and it seems
So-
to be working.
All right, so when he's meeting with contractors and they're saying, okay, what are we gonna do? Well, we're going to include where this current encroachment is, we're gonna take that out.
Are we gonna take the encroachment out all the way down and reclaim our property, or are we just gonna take the encroachment out by the store, the post office?
Those
Or is he gonna
signs.
change his
I mean,
mind?
I'll be more than happy to go talk with these people.
I think if we're gonna do this, we take our property back. I mean, we're providing parking spaces for them. The impact of the condo isn't that much, they have their own parking.
Yeah.
It's a win-win. It makes the road wider, so it makes it better for the marina
Yeah,
to get past people.
yeah, and it just makes it more pleasant to do business in that little area.
Yeah, gives them a boulevard.
Yeah.
And if we did take it back, what type of timeline are we looking for fixing that, paving it, or what we're gonna do?
I'm sorry.
If we did take it back,
Yep,
all those shrubs
Yep.
and everything, we wouldn't be doing anything with it for a year, right?
oh, probably before that, because the way the RFP is set up is that the reclaiming would be done and get the base coat down and then a wearing course, and then in the spring come back and do a final top coat.
No, I understand that,
Okay.
but we also have something like, the guy who has the motorsports
Yeah,
that currently is selling and using that as his showroom type
Oh.
space and all that.
yeah.
And
He just
his
got
landlord was told that he had a year to find a new place.
No, he said by the end of the summer.
After, you're at the end of the
No,
summer.
he'll be out at the end of May.
Oh, we will, motorcycle place?
Yes.
That's what he said, the end
That's
of
what he
May.
said, the end of
Oh, I
May.
thought he said the end of the summer. He
I
said
End of
thought you
May.
said
to the end of the
I thought you
year.
said next year.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
All right.
He'll be up in May.
Okay.
So I think Joyce should.
Right now, it seems like there's a
Yeah.
general consensus that if we can, we should reclaim our, it's
As long as
to
the town-
everybody's, it's to everybody's benefit to be able to have more room down there.
Is
Yes.
that what the public hearing's gonna be about?
I think we want to get that squared away before they announce at the public hearing that that's what you're gonna do.
So why don't we put the public hearing in the end of May?
End of May?
Because we told everybody we'd have them come back.
Yeah.
End of May?
And they,
End of May.
I'd just like to give them a little heads up on
That
that.
gives you almost 2 months.
Okay, end of May. Okay.
Can we like have it at 24th, because the 31st I won't be here.
You're going the 31st?
The 24th, because the 31st, it's more.
Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, it's like that.
I won't be here the 19th, or I'll be leaving early because Savannah's got her day of graduation.
April 19th?
Yeah. Well, I'll be here until like 5:30,
Patriots Day.
and I can come back.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna continue, before we go into continuing discussion on the hiring policy, do you want to go into non-public now? Or what do you want to do? I do have a letter for the board, 2 letters for the board to sign. This one, it was a request from Jim Pressure at the co-op. There's a Senate Bill 365. I'll read it. It says, our town of Tilton is a member of the Concord Co-op, which consists of 16 New Hampshire municipalities in the Concord area. The co-op has been delivering waste to the Wheelabrator Concord Waste Energy Facility since the facility began operations in 1989. We want to let you know that our board strongly supports Senate Bill 365. It will enable Wheelabrator Concord to remain a viable solid waste disposal solution in the state and continue to serve our town and other Concord co-op communities as it has for the past 30 years. If the facility were to close, the cost of waste disposal for I have my town, it's our town, I'll have to change that, and other Concord co-op communities would increase as we would be forced to transport our waste disposal locations much farther away. I'll have to fix that. But this goes to Dennis Fields, Tim Lang, and Gene Chandler. So if you're okay with the concept, we don't have to sign it. I'll just fix it because I'm going to email it to them anyway.
Do you want to put something about the impact to the taxpayers and costs of disposal?
Sure.
What happens if they have to travel it further? That will all have to go in the place that they pick all that up to travel further is on the swamp, or the wetlands in Belmont. And Casella takes it and then trucks it off to other facilities
That's right.
where they are already getting overfilled, and then they have to buy new land and establish that to fill even more. So,
Have they closed
It could be-
Bethlehem's landfill yet?
Berlin,
Is that still-
Bethlehem.
Is that still
They
functioning?
got some expansion stuff. Well, they sold one in Vermont a couple times, and they got a big lawsuit on pollution of it.
So did you want to do a quick non-public?
Not about this group.
Say what?
Sure.
Okay.
About what?
I don't know. Just checking.
Personnel acquisition,
This would be land disposition. Not so much acquisition,
That's
but
the personnel OT question.
yes, we didn't discuss that last week because we didn't have a full board.
Is that non-public?
So you've got
Yeah, let's do
personnel,
all the non-publics together so Gail can do her thing.
you've got land, and you've got
Is that
the
non-public?
tax thing.
So
You've got
that's,
3 different ones.
And then the deferrals.
so it's, we're gonna do A. We're doing hiring?
The hiring policy would be in public,
Okay.
and that's going to be quite.
Adversely
Yeah, let's do
affect the
that.
reputation?
Hmm?
I just want to make sure when I make the motion, I get all
Okay,
these
yeah.
covered. So we have A, We have D, consideration, acquisition of sale or lease. Can we discuss that?
Personnel and acquisition.
The A and D. Okay, so I'll make a motion that I move that we enter into a non-public session for the purpose of discussing
Land acquisition.
the land acquisition and personnel pursuant to RSA 91-A:3, A and D.
Second.
And seconded by Pat. And this
Constantino, yes.
Clock, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
St. John, yes.
Johnson, yes.
You want me to make copies of this?
We are red is on, time being 8:10.
8:20. 8:20? What time do you think?
Somebody gonna see this?
Okay.
Make a motion, we seal the minutes of the non-pub as they pertain to land acquisition until the matters are resolved.
All those in
Second.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Do you want to make that?
Opposed? Nay. Could make a motion that we authorize the town administrator to sign, to authorize her to pay the rent on 128 Sherwood Drive to Peter Graves of Rogers Development.
Second.
Aye.
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 Aye, but the motion was to authorize Joyce to send and sign the letter representing the Board of Selectmen to Peter Graves.
Second. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I had it right
You were close.
earlier,
You did.
stumbled, it's getting late here. Okay, so, getting back to our agenda, I think we're just about done here. Selectmen's reports. We already did Andrews Road, so I don't need to do that. I was just wondering about that.
We're all set for the 26th at noon. We need to be there around 11:30 for the Boston Post-Cane. Can somebody get in touch with Cindy to make sure that she's also invited? I RSVP'd everyone. I did include Cindy, but I need to know if she's still available.
Cindy.
Reinhardt, because she's the town clerk and she'll record that. And we've made arrangements to pick up the recipient and bring her. See how
For
that
our
goes.
legislator or senator, or,
Figure out.
no, to be there.
No, the press will be there.
Press, well, you know what, we ought to,
Might be nice to.
we should probably do our reps.
Have we ever before?
Would be nice
No,
if they
but
get
it's
more
gonna be
involved
up there in a,
No, but we should every time.
yeah.
It's something we should do.
It's
We
gonna
know
be
we
up
haven't done that.
in a more, usually we're at their home when we do it. We kinda don't wanna invite a lot of people to the home, it's usually just selectmen. Now it's in a public place, we could do it. That would be nice. And the 19th
Not even
is
let the
for,
governor's office know.
there's a dinner for the volunteers at the senior center.
Say that again?
The 19th at noon, there's a volunteer luncheon for a volunteer. That's a
No, that
different.
was an invitation they sent out to the
That's for the
selectmen to
board,
join them.
that's the selectmen. That's an invitation for the selectmen to join. But on the 19th is for volunteers that help out at the senior center, and they'll recognize volunteers. No, two different entities. That's it for me.
Good.
Good.
Next week, go to them.
Motion to adjourn.
The only thing, I just want to point out that it's kind of disappointing. If you looked at the one at Pisaki River, they've now reduce the flow very substantially. So they released all of the water very, very early in the season, much earlier than they normally do, dropped the lakes down to their levels, so there's less recreational uses for the river this spring, like there has been in the past. And I will be talking to Dan at the Dam Bureau.
They'll be,
That damn bureau.
don't they make a special release for Ken Norton's kayaking
They
event?
do that, and I've spoke to Dan before and to them, and the way they used to do it is release it slowly and make it last a lot longer. Now they're doing longer, higher releases early in the season so that there's no water stored up, and then they turn it on briefly for the one thing, and the rest of the time we can walk down the river. And it would be
But the
nice.
lakes are great.
But the lakes are great. So what's happening is they're catering to Lake Winnipesaukee.
Yep.
And forgetting about our recreational purposes of our river.
We are the last lakes downstream.
And it's also, you know, for the fish and the wildlife, it's better to have it ebb and flow naturally, more naturally, not dump everything out in the spring and shut it off.
Yep.
Anyway, that's my public service announcement.
Motion to adjourn?
Ooh, Catherine got in there. Aye.
Aye.